Hi, welcome to my channel. The full version of the audiobook is available on my Patreon. You can quickly find it through the link in my profile description. Thank you for your support.
Chapter 1 Starting Point Orphanage welcomes newcomers. Wednesday, November 2014, 7. England, City of London. A group of young and strong men were sweating recklessly on a green field, and a sharp whistle pierced the afternoon sky. Foul by the offensive team. The referee who whistled quickly ran to the scene of the incident, took a look at the two players lying on the ground, and then gestured to the outside. Team doctor. Stretcher. The medical team carrying the medical kit rushed into the field immediately, and the coaches of both sides watched the situation on the field with a little anxiety. As for the other players, most of them just took the opportunity to take a deep breath, then grabbed a bottle of sports drink from the sidelines, raised their necks and gulped it down. It only stayed in the mouth for 3 seconds, and then spit it out again. There were only 200 or 300 fans scattered in the auditorium on the sidelines. Seeing that someone seemed to be injured, there was a slight commotion among the crowd. Woke up. I said it earlier, how could that Nigerian hunk lose to an Asian monkey? Huh, look at that poor little guy, he's still in a coma. Some viewers laughed heartlessly. The big guy, they called, stood there with his hands spread innocently. Adebayor Akinfenwa, a dual nationality of England and Nigeria, is only 1.8 meters tall, but weighs an astonishing 102 kilograms. He is almost the strongest athlete in the entire football world. But the one lying at his feet was a yellow-skinned East Asian. Looking at his opponent who was completely unconscious, Akinfenwa felt a little regretful. Maybe he shouldn't have been so impulsive just now. Originally, this was just an innocuous friendly warm-up match, but I just joined the team and was eager to prove my ability in the new environment, so I broke out in this competition with all my strength. You know, I play for a powerful League 2, 4th-tier league, club, New Wimbledon club. Today, their opponent is nothing more than a Clapton club that is struggling in the 9th-level amateur league. The score was 3-0 long ago, and I also scored a goal. Why bother to work so hard? Wake up, he's awake. Lee Polo heard a voice. This language is very strange. Although I can understand it, it is not the most familiar Chinese, but English from a foreign country, and it also has a strange accent. He opened his eyes, and what he saw was a middle-aged man with stubble on his face. After seeing himself open his eyes, he stretched out 2 fingers of his right hand. Hey, boy, what's this? 2. Lee Polo frowned, but still answered him. Memories had flooded his mind like a flood. The owner of this body is also named Lee Polo. Polo is obviously an English name. Marco Polo's Polo, although it is a surname, immigrated to England with his parents when he was 6 years old. When he passed away, he could only rely on government relief funds to barely survive at a young age. As he grew older, with only a junior high school education, he could only do odd jobs in restaurants and department stores to make ends meet. Perhaps it was influenced by the football atmosphere in Europe, or maybe it was just a coincidence. 3 years ago, he joined the football team in the local community. In addition to receiving regular training once a week, he also participated in a game every weekend. It can be exchanged for an extra income of £20, and the legal minimum wage in the UK is £6 an hour. He has just turned 20 years old this year, with a height of 1.8 meters and a weight of 76 kilograms, he can barely be called a strong man, but in the fight just now, he was completely at a disadvantage. No way, the Akinfenwa on the opposite side is too strong, even Ramos and Van Dijk can't hit him, right? Seeing that his consciousness was still clear, the team doctor asked again. Do you feel any pain in particular? Lee Polo moved his hands and feet, turned his neck, and finally shook his head. No. The team doctor patted him on the shoulder and pulled him up from the ground. Young man, you are in good health and can hold that monster. I am optimistic about you. Lee Polo couldn't help baring his teeth. This team doctor belongs to the New Wimbledon club opposite. After confirming that the players on both sides can continue to persist, the referee blew the whistle to continue the game. It was Clapton's backcourt free kick just now, and the goalkeeper kicked the ball forward, wanting to take the opportunity to launch a wave of fast break. As a defender, Boluo watched the ball fly high into the sky from a distance, and a strange picture suddenly popped up in his mind. He seemed to be able to clearly predict the final landing point of this kickoff. His eyes moved quickly, and the football seemed to be drawn by him, almost exactly falling on his prediction point. I have awakened my talent. This is absolutely fake, right? Boluo shook his head, dispelled this strange thought, and then prepared to devote himself to the competition with all his strength. But now it's 68 minutes, and it's only 22 minutes before the end of the game. The score behind by 3 goals has long made this warm-up match meaningless, but Boluo, who has just come to this world, still wants to get acquainted own body. Back off. In a blink of an eye, Clapton's fast break was beaten back by the opponent. Several midfielders issued warnings to the defense, and then retreated aggressively, preparing to defend. Low-level teams tend to like long balls the most, and New Wimbledon is no exception. Their midfielder just grabbed the ball and directly launched a ball. The speed of the ball is not too fast, it is very likely to penetrate the opposite line of defense. The strong and fierce striker, Akinfenwa, glanced at the sky, made such a prediction in his mind, and then lowered his head and sprinted towards the goal at full speed. After running 20 meters, he turned his head again to check the position of the ball, but he saw a black shadow passing him from the corner of his eye. The guy who was easily knocked over by him a few minutes ago rose into the air. Akinfenwa opened his mouth. In Boluo's eyes, the spinning football seemed to have been cast with a deceleration spell, and he could accurately predict the next flight path. He jumped high, the ball hit his forehead accurately, and then bounced back. Akinfenwa stopped sprinting in frustration. Just a little bit. Completing a header clearance did not cause any waves. Whether it was the coaches of both sides, the players, or the audience on the sidelines, no one would be surprised. This time the clearance did not evolve into an effective offense, and the disparity in strength between the two sides was too great, so the game entered garbage time early. The New Wimbledon has replaced 3 starters in one breath, preparing to hone the second-tier players and make some preparations for the new season. The same is true for Clapton, with the exhausted striker and midfielder replaced, trying to use up the rest of the time with a fresh newcomer. After both sides used up their substitutions, the game was still a one-sided offensive and defensive drill. In the next 10 minutes, Clapton couldn't even attack his own half. TSK, this little guy's header is not bad. When Boluo made another clearance, the New Wimbledon coach, Neil Ardley, was sitting on the sidelines. Assistant coach Neil Cox also noticed this scene. "You mean, the opponent's defender?" Adre nodded. "Our several attacks were trying to penetrate the defense and look for Akinfenwa, but every time we were intercepted by him, it is hard to believe that these were all accidental." Cox agreed with his judgment. "And he's physically strong and doesn't look Asian at all." Adre laughed. "Don't let him hear it, or you will be charged with racial discrimination." Cox punched him in the chest. "Please, I'm a half-breed myself." Between the two talking and laughing, the game has come to the 83rd minute, and Clapton got a free kick in the front court. It's embarrassing to say that this is only their second free kick in the front court so far, because in the previous 83 minutes, they could hardly pose any threat to the New Wimbledon goal. Cox whistled. "It's a pity that the opponent is too weak, we can't practice the defense of set kicks." Adre shrugged his shoulders, but did not deny it. For them, the biggest significance of this game is to fulfill the agreement between the clubs. Do they still expect to find a star of hope from a 9th-level amateur team? Then he saw the young defender, who he called, "the header is not bad," trotting towards the front court. Adre pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose, smiled slightly and said, "Looks like we can practice defense a little bit." End of this chapter. Chapter 2 Level, and Level, As the core of Clapton's midfield, Michael Becker stood in the penalty area. He only took one look at the opposing defensive lineup and knew that this free kick was hopeless. In the penalty area of the New Wimbledon, at least 2 players are over 1.8 meters tall, how could one's teammates compete for it? He had no choice but to fiddle with the ball repeatedly, trying to delay a little time. The referee looked, and finally couldn't help walking over. "I must remind you, it's time to kick off." Becker shrugged his shoulders, took 3 steps back, and started this rare free kick opportunity. Whoosh! There are no fancy routines. After the 3-step run-up, there is a clean and vigorous kick. He wants to hoist the football to the edge of the small penalty area. One side is a professional team, and the other side is just an amateur. The physical fitness of the two sides is too poor. We can only hope that the players on both sides will refract in the fight and let the football fly into the net by itself. Ha ha ha. Adre, the new Wimbledon coach on the sidelines, couldn't help laughing. This kick, is it too big? Without any confrontation, Becker directly kicked more than 10 meters away. It was originally a direct pass to the goal, but it flew towards the edge of the penalty area. Assistant coach Cox stood up from his chair, slapped his butt with a smile. Get ready to shake hands with them. But Otter did not respond, his gaze was still on the field. This. Accompanied by his doubts, a strange figure suddenly appeared on the edge of the penalty area. The East Asian player whom he called a good header, just now appeared so strangely near the football's landing point. The tall defenders of New Wimbledon were all concentrated in the small penalty area, and he was allowed to slip past alone. Empty. Lee Polo leaps high to meet the football. The ball in his eyes became slow again. Oh. The ball hit his forehead firmly, and at this moment, an unimaginably powerful force erupted from his waist and abdomen, driving the whole person to spin outwards. The ball changed direction in mid-air. Whoosh! The New Wimbledon goalkeeper only saw a black shadow passing by his feet, and then heard a faint rustling sound from the net behind him. The ball went in. Good job. Lee Boluo was punched on the back by his teammate just after landing, and the sudden thrust made him almost fall to the ground. From 0 to 3 to 1 to 3, there seems to be no difference, but for these amateur players, it can already make them happy to hold a party. After all, there is a huge gap in strength between the two sides, one is the 4th level, the other is the 9th level, and the goal difference is only 2 points, which is not shameful at all. Instead, these professional players blushed. After all, these Clapton players are all just playing part-time, and the one with the highest weekly salary is only £50. As for New Wimbledon, Akinfenwa, who has the highest salary, can get as much as £2,000 a week. Adre adjusted his glasses again. This kid is really good. Cox rubbed his hands together. Why, you don't really like amateur players on an amateur team, do you? Adre glared at him. If we didn't succeed in relegation last season, we are still an amateur team now. His assistant stopped talking for a moment, but Adre also knew that professional and amateur are indeed two different worlds. So he said again. Let's observe for another 5 minutes. Perhaps the self-esteem of the professional players was stimulated by the opponent's goal. When the game restarted, the players of New Wimbledon launched an unprecedented violent attack. They only took 15 seconds to burn the flames of war to the opponent's big field. The front of the penalty area, and then bombarded around the goal indiscriminately. Not only did Lee Polo not panic, but there was a hint of joy. As a defender, the more ferocious the opponent's attack, the more chances you have to perform. At 85 minutes and 33 seconds, Akinfenwa suddenly speeded up without the ball, but Lee Polo allowed him to reverse offside, and he used an accurate prediction to successfully destroy the through pass of the opponent's midfielder. Just 40 seconds later, the New Wimbledon attack came back. This time they gave up penetrating through the center and opted for crosses from the side instead. Lee Polo and Akinfenwa made correct predictions at the same time and jumped up to scramble for the ball, but the weight difference of more than 20 kilograms still made him lose his balance. Fortunately, Akinfenwa was also affected, and the final header slid out of the goal. At 87 minutes and 51 seconds, Akinfenwa, who was repeatedly blocked, decided to make a personal breakthrough. He weighed 102 kilograms like a tank, rampaging through the crowd, almost as if he had entered no one's land. Oh! He knocked away the strongest central defender on the defensive side, and then threw his right leg high on the penalty area line, posing with a bow and arrow, ready to complete the fatal blow. But before his right foot landed, Lee Polo, who was like a ghost, came with a shovel from diagonally behind. His feet were firmly attached to the turf, and then he got ahead of the opponent and poked the football out with his toes. Whoosh! Akinfenwa, who had missed the kick, stumbled and almost strained his hamstring. The coaching team on the sidelines suddenly became nervous. This is the new aide they just bought. In the new season, he was counting on this strong man to help the team attack the city. If he was injured in this kind of warm-up match, it would be over. Fortunately, Akinfenwa quickly returned to normal, and the head coach breathed a sigh of relief. But before he could finish his breath, Clapton's fast break hit the new Wimbledon's half-court area. The forwards of the home team, who suppressed the entire field, rushed forward like drugs. New Wimbledon's tall defender William Nightingale strode too far, and even cut a fork in the process of retreating. "Ah! My!" He screamed so hard that the home team players who were launching a counterattack were taken aback, and kicked the shot as a clearance. The scene was a bit tragic, and the audience couldn't help covering their eyes to prevent psychological trauma to themselves. Assistant coach Cox landed a punch in the thigh. "This is really fucking unlucky." Adre rubbed his face vigorously. "Do we still have a choice?" The score of 1-3 was maintained until the end. Except for one direct goal, Polo contributed 3 header clearances and 4 steals in total, destroying Akinfenwa's shooting opportunities many times. As a defender, his performance was perfect. The Clapton players who lost by a big score were not depressed at all. Instead, they were full of laughter and laughter. They even made an appointment to go to a night game to relax. This is the true portrayal of amateur teams. Of course, Polo, the hero of the goal, also received the invitation, but he had to solve a problem first. "Hello, Mr. Lee, do you want to consider becoming a professional player?" End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Welcome to the Demon King. Let me introduce myself. I'm Neil Ardley, the new Wimbledon manager, and he's my assistant, Neil Cox. When two Neils appeared in front of Polo, he was somewhat confused, and could only answer reflexively. "Hello." Cox smiled. "Your performance in the last 10 minutes was very good, especially in terms of header scrambling and one-on-one defense. I personally think that you should have met the basic requirements of a professional player, so I want to invite you." Otter coughed. "Well, young man, do you want to join us?" Polo had few options. Restricted by the background of the death of both parents, he only finished junior high school and entered the society early in order to survive. However, he is destined to find no bright future in this realistic society with a junior high school education. And he only cares about one question. "How much is your weekly salary?" The two Neil looked at each other and smiled, and Adre answered him. "There will be someone to discuss the specific contract with you, but I can tell you that the minimum weekly salary for our first team players is £300. The weekly salary is £300, and the monthly salary is £1,200. According to the exchange rate in 2014, the equivalent of RMB exceeds dash." Boluo stomped his feet and held Adre's hands directly. "Come on, where shall we sign the contract?" Only one day later, Polo saw his first official professional player contract in his life. Considering that he was born in an amateur team, the general manager of New Wimbledon, Phil Powell, was very cautious and only offered a 2-year contract, and the weekly salary was only the lowest level of £300. The team can unilaterally terminate his contract, and even the transfer fee is floating according to the player's performance, for fear that the club will suffer and be fooled. Poluo didn't care about these things at all. What he cared more about was that starting today, he could move out of the rented shabby house, live in a free apartment provided by the club, and enjoy free training meals. The moment he signed his name, a line of bright red characters suddenly appeared in front of Polo's eyes. "Green Demon King has been activated, do you want to check it now?" He glanced at Powell subconsciously, and found that the other party did not respond, so he looked at this line of writing again. Check. He issued instructions with brainwaves, and the red font disappeared instantly, replaced by 2 lines of domineering handwriting. "You are destined not to be content with being ordinary. Ordinary will only lead you to destruction." His breathing suddenly became a little short. He quickly stabilized his mind, and stretched out his right hand to Powell. "Mr. Powell, thank you for your help, I will come to the club to report officially tomorrow." Powell shook hands with him, and encouraged him in a very stylized way. "Young people, the future of New Wimbledon belongs to you, I am very optimistic about you." After returning to the apartment, Poluo couldn't wait to check the system he owned, so excited that even his heart couldn't help shaking. After entering the system interface, he felt like he was playing a FIFA game. On the page of personal properties, I first saw an empty progress bar. LV1, 0/100. There are 2 lines of explanatory text in the margin. Anger, helplessness, remorse, nervousness, disgust, jealousy, resentment, frustration, fear, pain, despair. Collect negative emotions from opponents, they can make you stronger. Then there are the most common body values. Name, Boluo. Speed, 76. Ball possession, 45. Shots, 19. Passes, 23. Defense, 68. Body, 74. Spirit, 63. Total score, 368/700. Talent skill, Eagle Eye LV1, 0/100. It can accurately predict the trajectory of the football within 3 seconds, cooldown time, 10 minutes. He froze for a moment, and he couldn't help asking the system in his mind. A 10-minute CD, isn't it too long? And in the previous game, I could obviously use this skill without restriction. An emotionless voice appeared in my mind. You can understand the previous situation as a one-time experience coupon. Well, he accepted the rascal's explanation, and asked again. Then how do I collect negative emotions? After collecting them, what rewards can I get? The system answers again. After the negative emotions are full, you can upgrade. You will get 5 attribute points. You can freely distribute them to various attributes. You can also convert them into skill experience points in a ratio of 1 to 10 to upgrade your natural skills. Boluo asked. Can I acquire new skills in the future? This one skill is simply not enough. The sound of the system has no emotion. Currently insufficient permissions, please check after upgrading. Boluo slapped his thigh with a slap. This system is really weak. 7 attributes, my overall rating is just over 50%. If you want to fill all of them, you need 332 attribute points, that is 67 upgrades. Although he was somewhat dissatisfied with his own system, Boluo immediately started testing, preparing to collect the first wave of negative emotions. How to collect? Isn't that simple? He ran directly to the corridor, and slammed on all the surrounding doors. Suddenly, the whole apartment was filled with the sound of slamming doors. When Boluo rushed into his room, the corridor was already filled with Fu*K, sh*T, A*S in various accents. He waited happily for a long time, but he never had the expected negative emotions. The progress bar is still a poor 0. Boluo couldn't believe it. This is a collective apartment prepared by the club for young players. At least half of the players live here. How could he not have any negative emotions when he smashed the door like that? He can only turn to the system in his head. Why? The voice was cold and merciless. According to the current authority, only during the game, the negative emotions related to the game will be included in the statistics. Boluo was so angry that he couldn't help but uttered a foul language. Hey! I said it can't be so easy. Negative emotions can only be gained through the competition, so the difficulty of upgrading will undoubtedly rise sharply. Boluo was sitting in the room thinking about countermeasures, when the door was suddenly smashed with a bang-bang sound, which made him almost fall off the bed in fright. Down. He opened the door cautiously, and saw a bearded face. Yes, is there something wrong? The other side stretched out his right hand to him. I am the captain of the team, Barry Fuller. On behalf of the team, I invite you to the first party of the new season. I hope you can attend. As a newcomer, Boluo had no reason to refuse, and quickly held his rough hand. Thank you for the invitation, Captain, I will definitely attend on time. Fuller whistled and smiled meaningfully. You have to be prepared, those old guys will definitely let you experience a different welcome ceremony. Boluo couldn't help asking. What ceremony? Fuller looked mysterious. You'll know when the time comes, we're playing rough, I hope you won't be scared to pee. End of this chapter. Chapter 4 Want to take off my clothes. July 7th, 25:20 in the evening. London, John Inn pub. After walking into the bar, Boluo didn't see the overly luxurious decoration style. After all, the players in League 2 are generally struggling with food and clothing. No one can go in and out of high-end entertainment venues, and the people who consume here are ordinary people. Boluo quietly took out a hangover medicine from his pocket, asked for a glass of water from the bar, and drank it directly, then walked to the box reserved by the captain. "Hey, brother." Barry Fuller gave him a high five with a smile. "I'm just waiting for you." The box was already full of other teammates, including the 102-kilogram Akinfenwa who had played against Polo many times before. Akinfenwa directly raised a glass of golden beer. "Little guy, you did a good job last game." Boluo grinned, raised his glass and touched him. "You're not bad either." Akinfenwa laughed loudly, and the muscles all over his body were visibly trembling. A slightly bald guy stood up holding a glass of wine. "I'm Jack Smith, the team's vice-captain, and welcome to the new Wimbledon." Another big man with a stature close to 1.9 meters also raised the cup. "Third captain, Mark Phillips, welcome, lad." Before Boluo could sit down, they poured him 3 cups in a row, and his mouth felt a little bitter. Seeing him drinking happily, these teammates all laughed. Captain Fuller patted him on the shoulder. "Have you read the history of New Wimbledon?" Boluo nodded slightly. Since he joined this club, he certainly checked the relevant information. The history of Wimbledon can be traced back to 1889, and it is one of the earliest teams established in England, more than 120 years ago. Due to the fierce and wild style of play, Wimbledon has always been known as the Crazy Gang, which is also in line with the temperament of British football and is very popular among the people. But in 2003, due to the intervention of the capital market, the new owner moved the team to a wealthy area and changed its name to Milton Keynes Club. Fans and other supporters set up New Wimbledon in anger, but due to insufficient financial resources, only can develop from scratch step by step from a low-level league. Fuller smiled. "Then have you heard of the team's welcome ceremony?" The others immediately let out a hee-hee laugh. Polo froze for a moment. "What is that?" Vice-Captain Smith explained with a smirk. "To put it simply, there are 3 steps. First, take off your clothes. Second, everyone sprays champagne on you. Third, you run around the bar naked. If you are in the mood, you can also sing our team song again." Polo looked at Fuller. "It's not real, is it?" The captain shrugged. "Unfortunately, this is the tradition of the Mad Gang, everyone has to do it when they join the team." Polo turned to Akinfenwa again. "You too?" Akinfenwa grinned, his teeth looked extraordinarily white under his dark skin. "Me? I don't." Polo widened his eyes. "Why?" He showed off his twitching muscles. "Because they can't take off my clothes, ha ha ha." Poluo felt his eyelids twitch, but he was still unwilling to compromise. What if I refuse?" Fuller's expression turned cold. "You sure?" Poluo took a deep breath, and finally nodded slowly. "I'm sure." Fuller pointed to the door. "Then you are not welcome at New Wimbledon." Poluo glanced at him, then at Akinfenwa, Smith, Phillips and others, and suddenly grinned. "Goodbye." Then he slammed the door and walked out without looking back. A dozen players looked at each other, and someone couldn't help but say, "This little guy is a bit too crazy." Smith rubbed his sparse stubble. "It shouldn't be, he is just an amateur player, how could he have the guts to lose his temper in front of us?" Fuller raised his glass. "Jack, tomorrow morning, you can teach him what a real professional player is." November 7th, 26:08 am. With 15 minutes left until the morning's training session, the new Wimbledon coaching staff have already started their day's work. Team Dr. Stuart Douglas is reporting on the team's injuries. The central defender William Nightingale suffered a severe torn thigh muscle and needs to rest for at least 6 weeks. There are also Tom Beale and Sammy Moore, they are all about to become glass people. Head coach Neil Ardley interrupted his debrief. Tom has decided to return to school, and Sammy will officially transfer soon, so there is no need to consider their injuries in the new season. Douglas nodded and crossed the names of the 2 players off the list. Assistant coach Cox looked at him and asked, "How about the new little guy?" Douglas raised his eyelids and asked, "Which one?" "At least a third of our summer players are new." Cox smiled and rubbed his chin. That kid of Chinese descent who just signed a formal contract yesterday. Douglas put down the folder in his hand, thought for a few seconds, and then answered him. Polo Lee. I still remember his physical examination report. For an East Asian player, it's really good to have this physique. His jumping ability and explosive power are above average. And I heard, he have you singled out Akinfenwa in the warm-up match? Cox coughed and corrected him. You also know that it was just a warm-up match, so it shouldn't be taken seriously. Adre disagreed with the assistant's point of view. We signed him, isn't it because of the ability he showed in the warm-up game? Cox shrugged. Okay, but for us, he is still a pure novice. It may be a long time before he wants to play in an official game. Adre didn't deny it, he stood up and patted his clothes. Let's go to the training ground. Hey guys, let me introduce you to the number 8 new player of this season. A few minutes later, the players gathered one after another, and Cox pointed to Lee Polo who was standing at the back. You should be familiar with the little guy from Clapton, Polo Lee, who played a friendly match with us just 3 days ago. He looked at Fuller who was standing at the front again. As the captain, I hope you can help him integrate into the team as soon as possible. Fuller immediately rolled his eyes. Sorry, coach, he doesn't seem to want to fit into the Wimbledon tradition. Vice-Captain Smith also shrugged his shoulders in support of Fuller. Yes, he refused our help. Cox was stunned for a moment, and was about to say something more when he was interrupted by head coach Adre. Everyone move for me. Basic warm-up for half an hour, and then confrontation training. Fuller and Smith grinned, and looked at Lee Polo in unison. You heard it too, the coach asked us to help you integrate into the team. Lee Polo raised his eyebrows without fear. Come on, 2 captains. He wanted to see what these old fellows could do to him. End of this chapter. Chapter 5 Bad Kicks, bear with me. Boom. There was a muffled sound on the training ground, and Lee Polo, who was struggling, was hit hard in the chest. He suddenly lost his balance. If he hadn't been quick-eyed and quick-handed, reaching out to support the ground, he would have already gnawed a mouthful of turf at this moment. It was Adebayor Aziz, a young striker born in 1994 who knocked him down, who was also a rookie who just joined the team this summer. It's just that unlike Lee Polo, Aziz quickly worshipped the peer after joining the team. He was loyal to the old captain Fuller and was willing to act as a thug. Just now Fuller sent a long oblique pass from the right, and Aziz immediately accelerated forward knowingly, regardless of whether he could grab the spot or not, he directly slammed into Lee Polo's arms with all his strength. What surprised him was that his sneak attack this time only caused the opponent to stagger a little, and then immediately regained his balance. He even completed the next clearance and accurately passed the ball to another teammate. You know, Aziz is also a powerful striker with a height of 1.8 meters 3 and a weight of 81 kilograms. He is no different from a small meat bomb tank when he hits at full speed. Hey! He heard Lee Polo's voice, and couldn't help squinting his eyes. Lee Polo raised his chin, there was no fear in his eyes. Are you sure you want to play like this? Aziz suddenly felt guilty. What do you mean? Lee Polo grinned, showing a mouthful of white teeth. I am an amateur player who was born in community football. In amateur games, brutal confrontation is the most common. If I can't grasp the strength in the fight, the coach will understand. Looking at his sharp teeth, Aziz couldn't help shivering. Lee Polo suddenly received a message. Negative emotions from Adebayor Aziz +1. This is a blatant warning. If he dares to be so provocative again, he doesn't mind kicking the opponent's leg. Anyway, he was just an amateur player. Aziz didn't say a word, but in the following confrontation, he perfectly kept a polite distance from Lee Polo, without even a single physical confrontation. Coward. Cox, the deputy captain, saw his performance and spat viciously. Fuller was also very dissatisfied, and took advantage of the intermission to pull Akinfenwa. Dude, let that little fellow suffer. Akinfenwa hesitated for a second, and finally nodded. Okay. Leave it to me. As the number 1 muscle tyrant in Great Britain, he is completely confident that as long as he shows, % of his skills, he can make that ignorant kid turn his back on his back and cry bitterly. Lee Polo, who had been vigilant all the time, noticed the movements of Fuller and Cox immediately, and his eyes turned to Akinfenwa. Akinfenwa looked at him, raised his arms and squeezed inward, proudly showing off his strong biceps, as well as the hideous tattoos on his arms, and even reminded him. "Little guy, you have to be careful." Boluo frowned slightly. "Akinfenwa and Aziz, this is not a heavyweight rivalry. This big man, even the powerful defenders of the Premier League are deeply troubled. Manchester United's Vidic, Ferdinand, Chelsea's Terry, Manchester City's Kompany, Liverpool's Ajer, Skrtel, these defenders who are known for their toughness may not be able to take advantage of one-on-one fights. Upper hand. Call." Boluo took a deep breath to calm himself down, but his spirit was highly concentrated. What he is facing is the strongest player in English football, and he is at an absolute disadvantage in strength confrontation, so why not maximize the advantages of speed and flexibility? After only 3 minutes in the second half, Akinfenwa launched a violent assault towards the penalty area. Fuller completed a sharp breakthrough on the right, and then quickly passed the middle. Akinfenwa sank into his dantian, his legs were about to exert strength, but Boluo jumped up high. What's even more irritating is that Boluo opened his arms so hard that they just got stuck on Akinfenwa's neck, making him unable to take off at all. This strong striker can only be willing to play a cameo as a stepping stone, watching Boluo complete a textbook header to clear the siege. Pretty. The eyes of the two coaches outside the court lit up, and Adre nodded again and again. "That's why I'm signing him." Cox also had to admit. "This little guy is really talented in choosing landing points, and his explosive power and jumping ability are also very good, which can fully make up for his shortcoming in height." Boluo didn't hear the coach's praise, but he received +1 from Akinfenwa for his negative emotions. Akinfenwa moved his oppressed neck with a displeased face. "Good boy, I have some skills, and I will never let you be so proud next time." Boluo glanced at him. "You're going to lose the ball." Akinfenwa was stunned for a moment, and saw that the ball that was cleared by Boluo was finally poked into the goal by the 37-year-old veteran David Connolly after 3 consecutive quick passes. The second team took the lead 1-0. Negative emotions from Barry Fuller +1. Fuller gritted his teeth. This is definitely a coincidence. How could Akinfenwa lose to a brat? Of course he has reason to be angry. The loss of the ball just now has a lot to do with his failure to get back in place in time. He clenched his fists. Next time will definitely make you look better." The strength gap between the main lineup and the substitute lineup was too obvious, and the game turned into a one-sided offensive and defensive drill without any surprises. Akinfenwa quickly stood in front of Boluo. "Hey, boy," he said in a muffled voice. "You really have to be careful." Boluo stopped him without flinching. "Dude, don't underestimate people." Before his words fell, the vice-captain Smith sent a diagonal pass from the other wing. Boluo looked up, not panicking at all. Smith, who was eager to make a contribution, directly passed the ball high into the sky. Even if Akinfenwa tied his legs with rocket injectors, he could not catch up with this pass. "Hee." Boluo smiled and gave Smith a thumbs up. "Beautiful pass." Negative emotions from Jack Smith +1. "Stinky boy, you still dare to laugh at my passing skills?" Smith became a little annoyed, gritted his teeth viciously, turned around and backed away. But just 2 minutes later, Smith made a comeback and once again took the ball into the opponent's 30-meter area. It has to be said that the vice-captain still has 2 brushes. The football was firmly controlled by him, and he easily swayed past the right back Raja who rushed to defend. Smith looked up at Akinfenwa's position, swung his right foot slightly backwards, and assumed the posture of kicking a cross, which attracted Boluo to follow Akinfenwa to retreat to the penalty area, but Smith just gently moved as soon as the ball flicked to the left. He chose to cut in and continue to break through. "Stinky boy, you are too young." After playing with Boluo, Smith was in a good mood, and while dribbling the ball laterally, he looked up again to observe. He has reached near the top of the arc in the penalty area, and he can shoot directly. Imagining that his shot brushed against Boluo's body and flew into the goal, he couldn't help feeling a little excited. Smith flicked the ball and swung his right foot back high. He couldn't wait to appreciate Boluo's helpless expression. But just a second later, the smile on his face froze. Boluo, who was still beside Akinfenwa just now, has already appeared in front of his eyes. Sensing that Smith was coming in a bad way, Boluo activated the Hawkeye skill. He completely saw through the opponent's next shot, and then directly used a sliding shovel. Bah! Boluo slid over the turf and kicked the football out before the opponent, but Smith dropped his right foot and just hit the sole of his shoe. What? Smith let out a scream. There was a heart-wrenching feeling on the instep of my right foot. This shot gathered 100% of his strength, but what he kicked was the sole of a football boot covered with steel nails. Fuller, the captain on the other wing, was terrified. Damn, don't let him get rid of you like this, dude. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The little guy is not small. Drop. Acting as the referee's assistant, Coach Cox quickly blew the whistle for a timeout. Without him making a gesture, Douglas, the team doctor who has been on standby on the sidelines, has already rushed in. After a simple check, Douglas shook his head towards the head coach on the sidelines. Broken at least one toe. Adre slapped himself on the forehead, and swears directly. *T. The team's reserve of defenders is not sufficient. One was seriously injured in the previous friendly match, and another one was crippled in less than a week. Seeing his bleeding feet, Smith almost fainted. The new season is about to start, but because of an emotional dispute within the team, I abolished my martial arts. For a professional player, an injury not only means that he cannot play, but also means that his income has been reduced by a large amount. And, if I take too long to recuperate, my main position in the team may also be threatened. Negative emotions from Jack Smith +10. Seeing this message, Boluo was slightly taken aback. Originally, he thought that negative emotions can only get 1 point at a time, but now he understands that negative emotions also have high and low levels. He raised his eyebrows, walked up to Captain Fuller, and said coldly, "Captain, are you going to accompany him in the hospital?" Fuller's eyes widened, his eyes were full of anger, but he still didn't say anything after all. Negative emotions from Barry Fuller +1. He saw clearly the conflict just now. Smith's shot was determined to win, and Boluo's block was dangerous. If he was a little slower, not only would he not be able to block the opponent's shot, but he might even get injured. But Boluo rushed forward without hesitation. As a defender in charge of defense, he is undoubtedly extremely competent. This steal was also very precise. No one can blame him, let alone Fuller. Although Adley replaced Smith immediately, the injury of the vice-captain still left a psychological shadow on the other players. Most of the following games appeared to be cautious, and the score of 0-1 was maintained until the end. There are still 10 days, the first round of the new season is about to start. I hope you can adjust your status in time. At the end of the training, Otter made a concluding speech. Last season we escaped relegation, but everyone should know that League 2 is not where we want to stay for a long time. We all yearn for a higher stage. In this transfer window, we have introduced many powerful players, just to launch an impact on League 1. His eyes fell on Fuller. Barry, as the captain, you have to lead by example and lead all teammates to work together. Fuller pursed his lips. He didn't know if the head coach was warning his little gang, so he could only nod. I will, coach. Adele waved. Polo, stay here for a while, and the others will disband. Boluo obediently stood where he was, watching his teammates leave in a hurry. I only heard Adre ask. Is there anything you need my help with? Boluo froze for a moment, then shook his head. No. He is not the kind of good boy who likes to report to the teacher, he prefers to solve problems by himself. Adre looked at him, did not continue to ask, but changed the subject. Can you play left back? The left back was originally only Smith as the first choice player. After he was injured, this position immediately became vacant, so Otter was even more distressed. Boluo thought for 3 seconds before answering truthfully. Coach, I've only played left back twice at Clapton. Although he is only a little over 1.8 meters tall, his excellent jumping ability has allowed him to firmly occupy the position of the main central defender in Clapton. He can occasionally play on the right, but the left is indeed an unfamiliar position. The reason why I didn't hide it was because this kind of thing can be seen through at a glance, so it's better to admit it frankly. Adre sighed with some regret. Okay, this is also impossible. At this time, Cox remembered something and handed over the roster in his hand. By the way, you can choose a number for yourself. Polo took it over and glanced at it. Traditionally, guards 2, 3, 4, and 5 have already belonged to each other. For example, the captain and vice-captain Fuller and Smith occupy number 2 and number 3 respectively. The selected ones are all large numbers over 20. 222531424599. After reading everyone's numbers, he looked up hesitantly and asked. Number 1. Okay. In the traditional concept, number 1 is of course the number of the main goalkeeper, but Wimbledon's number 20 goalkeeper James Shea has always favored number 21, while the two substitute goalkeepers are number 26 and no, so that this number is even useless. People use. Cox raised his eyebrows, his face full of surprise. Are you sure you want this number? Polo shrugged his shoulders. There is no rule that number 1 can only be the goalkeeper. Cox glanced at the head coach, saw that he had no objection, and shrugged his shoulders indifferently. Maybe one day, you will really play goalkeeper. That bastard actually chose number 1. Fuller, who had just taken a shower, got the news. He threw away the towel and sat in the locker room angrily. After washing together, Akinfenwa patted his dripping belly and said with a smile. Number 1. Interesting. Fuller glanced at him and became even angrier. If you didn't go all out, how could he be so arrogant? Akinfenwa wiped his shiny forehead, hung the towel around his neck, and looked directly into his eyes. Dude, I'm here to play football, not to play with you. All of Fuller's unhappiness was blocked by him, and he couldn't help kicking a bottle of mineral water away. The door of the locker room opened just by chance, and Boluo, who had just chosen the numbers, walked in briskly. He didn't pay too much attention to other people's emotions, just took off his clothes in 3s and 5s, and then walked into the shower room whistling. Akinfenwa glanced at him sideways, and also whistled with a smile. Little guy, you are not small at all. After hearing his words, Boluo almost fell down. Fuller's complexion was even uglier. He felt that his majesty as the captain was being quickly deprived of it. He closed his eyes, but his mind was full of the image of Polo taking off his clothes just now. Good guy, this bastard, is really not small. End of this chapter. Chapter 7 The Eternal Enemy. Polo Lee is not invulnerable. During the training session in the afternoon, the old Captain Fuller discovered Polo's weakness. Polo's strengths lie in his excellent explosiveness and jumping ability, his incredible anticipation ability, and his physical confrontation ability is also good, but as a player who has just signed a professional contract, his technical ability in other aspects is still poor. His ball handling skills at his feet are very rough, and his passing accuracy exposes his rookie attributes. As for offensive attributes such as dribbling and shooting, he has no chance for the time being. Fuller breathed a sigh of relief. An amateur player after all. The coaching team also took Polo's performance into consideration. Assistant coach Cox suggested to the head coach. I'm afraid he will need a long time to run in before he can meet the conditions for playing. Adre didn't object either, he just shrugged his shoulders. The salary of £300 a week is just a substitute. Compared with this, shouldn't you care more about our opponents in the League Cup? Cox froze for a moment. The lottery result has come out. Who is the opponent? Adre's expression was slightly strange. Milton Keynes. Cox's complexion suddenly changed. It turned out to be them. Adre nodded slightly. If I say, I'm going to hide some of the main players in the first round, do you think the fans will agree? Cox answered him without hesitation. Of course. Milton Keynes, that's our sworn enemy. An hour later, the players who finished training were reunited. Today's training effect is not bad, I hope to continue tomorrow. Head coach Ardley made a brief comment before moving on to more important topics. The league and cup schedules for the new season have been released. The first league game is on August 8th, against Shrewsbury at home, and 3 days later on August 9th, we're away to play our first League Cup opponent, Milton Keynes. The old players headed by the third captain Phillips were in an uproar. "Coach! Is this true?" Adre looked at them with a serious face, and called the third captain's name again. "Mark, as the captain, please tell the rookies what kind of team this is." Phillips, who has played for the longest time in the team, did his part to stand up. "The reason why we are called New Wimbledon is because the previous Wimbledon was disliked by his boss and could not provide more opportunities to make money, so it was transferred to the Milton Keynes community. Since they abandoned Wimbledon, the fans in the original community spontaneously set up a new Wimbledon to inherit the history and glory of the crazy gang." He is not a good speaker, so that some new players are still very calm after listening, assistant coach Cox had to add. "They are our eternal enemies." After hearing the mortal enemy, the eyes of those new players finally changed, and some people even yelled. "Then kill them. Fuck them." Boluo also rolled up his sleeves and geared up, showing a look of righteous indignation. Although he will definitely not start in such a major game, as a member of the team, he must find a sense of belonging. Otter was quite satisfied with the players' emotions. He nodded and spoke again. "In order to meet Milton Keynes in the best condition, I will make appropriate adjustments to the lineup in the weekend league, such as the forward position, such as the defender." His eyes moved slowly from the young players, and he glanced at Boluo seemingly inadvertently. Boluo soon found out, as assistant coach Cox singled him out after practice. "Polo, you probably don't know that Jack Smith is our only right back at the moment." Polo didn't feel embarrassed. After all, Smith's injury was not his intention at all. "That's a pity, sir." Cox did not mean to blame him, but continued. "Barry could have made a cameo, but Mr. Coach wants him to rest for another day, so we want you to complete this mission." Boluo's eyes widened immediately. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak, he could only type a few punctuation marks slowly. Cox seemed to understand his thoughts, and encouraged him gently. "This is your first start in a professional game. I know you must be a little nervous, but take it easy." Boluo licked his lips, swallowed with some difficulty, and then confirmed to him. "Mr. Coach, what do you mean, I start to play left back?" Cox stretched out his right hand and patted him on the shoulder. "The coaching staff will not put any pressure on you, you just need to give it your all." Boluo's cheeks were a little stiff. In order to face the deadly enemy, did the coaching staff directly give up the first game of the new season? "Although I got a valuable starting opportunity, but this kind of opportunity that was given up, what's the point?" The head coach Adele is a decisive person. Now that he has made a decision, he immediately begins to implement it. From the second day on, Wimbledon's intra-team match was clearly divided into, against Milton's main team, vs. first-round league substitute team, and almost all the training content revolved around Milton Keynes. Characteristics to carry out. There was a moment of silence in the media room at Wimbledon after watching tape of the opponent's match. It is clear to everyone that as a team in the third tier, Milton Keynes has not complicated characteristics. Compared with Wimbledon in the fourth tier, they have stronger strength, faster speed, better technology, and better tactics. The literacy is also higher, and even the skills of fouls and flops are better. The coaching staff wasn't surprised by the players' reactions, so assistant coach Cox stood up. "I have to admit that this is a difficult opponent, and their four lines have no obvious shortcomings, especially this striker." The picture on the screen turned, and the camera fell on a young man with dark skin. Just listen to Cox's introduction. Benik Afobe, the main striker of England's 2010 European Youth Championship team, is 21 years old and has just been loaned from Arsenal. He is very fast and has excellent skills, especially the ability to pass the ball and create opportunities. In the third and fourth leagues, there are very few people who can match him. If there is no accident, he will definitely be the core of the offense. I will give me full coverage from the midfield and don't let him have a chance to get the ball comfortably. Watching Afobe's game screen, several defenders nodded slowly. Cox pressed the remote control in his hand, and the screen switched to another player. This player looks younger. In terms of midfield, what needs to be paid attention to is this: Dele Alli, Milton's own youth player, just turned 18 this year and completed his professional debut at the age of 16. His skills are very comprehensive, tall, he is not afraid of confrontation and has delicate footwork. He is not only good at through assists, but also likes to shoot forward. As a midfielder, he scored 7 goals in League One last season, and his efficiency is very impressive. Head coach Adre added. There is no doubt that he has the strength to play in the British Championship and even the Premier League. We may need to spend more energy to limit him. Cox nodded, and said. However, he is still too immature after all, has a hot temper, and often commits fouls rashly. Maybe we can use this weakness to drive him out of the game. As soon as they heard it was old fritters and old bastards in the green field, the players headed by Captain Fuller all showed understanding smiles, and the atmosphere in the room suddenly became more soothing and harmonious. Cox also smiled and continued to introduce. Look at the backcourt. The main central defender, Dean Levington, is also the captain of the team. He is not tall, only 1.8 meters. Before he finished speaking, Akinfenwa whistled. Coach, leave him to me. If I can't overthrow him, I'm willing to treat everyone to a big meal. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The minds of the coaching team and the main players have already flown to the first round of the English League Cup on August 8, but for Boluo and other rotation players, the league opener on August 12 is what they should pay attention to matter. August 2014, 9:09 p.m. City of London, South West, Wimbledon Township, Kings Meadow Stadium. As a low-level team, New Wimbledon has only 4,722 seats at home, which is less than one-tenth of the number compared to Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Manchester City, which compete in the Premier League. To put it bluntly, the hardware facilities of most high school and university playgrounds can completely explode this bird's nest. The crazy gang, who are struggling to relegation every season, have no funds to expand the stands and seats, otherwise their coaches and players will run out of ammunition in minutes. Although New Wimbledon's performance last season was very bad, with a total of 24 teams, they only ranked 16th, and they were only 4 points away from the relegation zone, but benefited from the crowd background of the crazy gang. The opening game still attracted more than 3,000 diehard fans to the scene. But those fans soon felt some disappointment. Because among the team's starting 11 players, they did not see Akinfenwa, the biggest muscular player in British football, who carried great expectations, nor did they see familiar players such as Fuller, Smith, and Shea. Faces, the lineup lined up by the head coach Adele, is impressively composed of 11 old, weak, sick and disabled. The front line is composed of 3 veterans, Andy Frampton in 79, David Connolly in 77, and Matthew Dubis in 84. It is difficult to expect that they can threaten the team with an average age of 33. Opponent's goal. The age composition of the midfielder is a little more optimistic, Danny Boorman in 79, Sean Rigg in 88, and Frank Sutherland in 93, which can be regarded as 3 generations of old, middle and young. 8293949717. Looking at those little guys with no hair, how could more than 3,000 spectators not understand the intention of the coaching team? Lee Polo, who was warming up, was a little worried. After all, it is the first official game of the new season. Seeing that the team I support is so perfunctory, will the audience who spent money let out a roar? RNM, refund the money. Drop. With the whistle of the referee, the first round of the 2014-15 English Division 2 Football League officially began. Shrewsbury, the opponent of New Wimbledon, was relegated last season as the bottom one in League One, but as the saying goes, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. Without a large-scale sale of people, they are still one of the favourites to advance this season, and as for the New Wimbledon, even the most diehard fans cannot be optimistic about their progress. The home team wanted to preserve their strength to face their archenemy, but the visiting team had no worries. The game quickly turned into a one-sided offensive and defensive drill. New Wimbledon retreated and Shrewsbury unceremoniously pressed the whole line. The offensive like a storm made the fans of the home team feel the gap between the 3rd level and the 4th level, just like the difference between England and China's football level. However, even if the England national team is playing with all the main players, it is impossible to blow up the defense line of the Chinese rotation every minute, especially when the Chinese team is still defending with all its strength. Therefore, it is not surprising that after 25 minutes of the game, the score is still 0-0. The assistant coach Cox, who was sitting on the coach's bench, muttered. We seem to have underestimated the fighting spirit of these young men. Head coach Adre nodded slightly, agreeing. Shrewsbury wants to win too much. Their offensive is too simple and direct. It is easy to be seen through and then play. Before he finished speaking, Shrewsbury launched an offensive. Their right midfielder Ashley Vincent sped off Boluo and made a cross. Boluo turned to look in front of the goal, and saw goalkeeper Ross Werner throw away the goal and knock the football into the air with one punch. The ball didn't fly too far, and it was the veteran midfielder Brightman who grabbed the spot. He quickly observed the situation around him, turned around and chose a long pass. At the top is the new Wimbledon striker Matthew Dubis. Shrewsbury is attacking with all their strength, and their backcourt is now flat. Dubis was speeding on this prairie at a high speed. He only needed to increase his speed to the extreme, and he threw away Shrewsbury's entire defense line. Adley and Cox stood up at the same time. Under their fiery gaze, the 30-year-old Dubs went into Shrewsbury's big penalty area. One-on-one single-handedness. The visiting goalkeeper Jason Lutweiler gritted his molars and chose to abandon the goal to block, but was caught by the experienced Dubis and easily completed a rubbing shot. 1 o'clock. The home team, which defended for 26 minutes, took the lead. Ma show. The King's Grass Stadium suddenly became boiling, and the fans who had no hope for the game broke out in unison. They shouted the name of Dubs, applauded vigorously, hugged fiercely, and celebrated wildly. After completing the fatal blow, Dubis jumped directly onto the home team stands, receiving the worship of fans like a hero. As the rotation striker of the League One team Crawley last season, he played 18 league games throughout the season and scored 8 goals, which is quite efficient. Originally thought that, condescension, to join the League Two team, I can sit firmly in the position of the main shooter, but with the double joining of Akinfenwa and Aziz, I am obviously not the first choice of the coaching staff. Dubis was very satisfied with his performance just now, and even felt elated after being slapped in the face on the spot. Coach, do you stop thinking about it? Although Adelaide is also very excited, but a goal is not enough for him to change the positioning of the players. What's more, his excitement and happiness didn't last too long. Only 11 minutes later, Shrewsbury, who was ashamed and courageous, equalized the score, and the two sides returned to the same starting line. It was a central attack, and the three visiting players used quick and savage passes and cuts to penetrate the temporary defense combination of Phillips and Goodman in 5 seconds, and their tall centre James Collins put the football sent into the home team's goal. Different from the forward line, the defense line needs more stability and tacit understanding, and it is most taboo to change at will. This time the goal perfectly interprets this point of view. Adre frowned, and was not too disappointed. He just stood on the sidelines and signaled the players to continue to implement their pre-established tactics. Drip. With the efforts of the whole team, New Wimbledon successfully brought the score of 1-1 into the intermission. All the players who tried their best were sweating profusely, and Boluo was panting heavily as he walked slowly to the locker room with his teammates. The home team goes to the left, the visiting team goes to the right. The stadium is so dilapidated, and the locker room is naturally impossible to be so luxurious. Most players can simply pick up a towel to wipe off their sweat, and gather around the coach to listen to the analysis. In the visiting dressing room, Shrewsbury manager Mickey Mellon was criticizing his players. Our goal this season is to return to League One. If we can't even beat Wimbledon, what's the point of promotion? Look at their defense line, it's just a makeshift lineup, especially the number 1 and number 22, who don't even have official game experience. Don't tell me, you will lose to them. The head coach just took office in the new season, and his criticism can be said to be merciless. Those old players blushed to some extent, and stood up to express their views. Coach, don't worry, we will definitely win with all our strength. After the atmosphere was stirred up, the next job was handed over to assistant coach Mike Jackson, real name, who began to analyze the performance of both sides in the first half. Our defense doesn't need to be too high. The offensive in the center and front is enough to destroy the opponent. Several of their players have good air defense capabilities, so we have to use more ground passes to penetrate them. While the visiting team was arranging tactics, Adre was also not idle. He drew a circle on the tactical board and completely surrounded his own restricted area. The tactics in the second half are very simple: stick to the penalty area. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. What should I do if I'm too nervous for the first time? Guys, are you alright? The chief team doctor, Stuart Douglas, led his assistants to massage and relax the players' muscles, while focusing on asking young players such as Boluo and Sweeney about their situation. Shrewsbury's offense was quite ferocious, and this young defense was under tremendous pressure. Boluo is no exception. He doesn't run too much, but the rhythm of the game, the frequency of sprinting back and forth, and the frequency of physical confrontation are not comparable to the amateur games he is used to. For Boluo, who had never played a professional game, there were 2 or 3 moments when he even felt that he might suffocate at any time. Throughout the first half, he played uncomfortable at all. The position of the temporary guest left-back is not only completely different from the defensive habits of the central defender, but it is also difficult to seamlessly send the ball forward in the counterattack. After all, passing the ball requires precise control. There is still a huge difference between doing it with the right foot. Fortunately, most of the time the team is in a defensive state. He only needs to do a good job of defense, even if he has completed his own task that in 45 plus 3 minutes, although he was penetrated by the opponent's right forward Ashley Vincent many times. As a pure rookie, he also surrendered 3 interceptions plus 2 header clearances. Such performance is enough to satisfy the coaching team. The head coach Adre came over at this time, and he patted Boluo on the back to express his encouragement. "Lad, played well in the first half, but still work hard," Boluo hastily stated. "I'll do my best, coach." Adre took another look at left-back Sean Rigg. "In the second half, Sean will drop back to help defense, and your pressure will also be relieved." Boluo exhaled and stood up from the bench. "I won't let them easily break through again." Adre raised his chin with a smile, not puncturing his big words. After all, who hasn't been youthful? What's wrong with a young man, a little confident? We are the crazy gang. Drip. With a long whistle, 22 strong men entangled again. Shrewsbury's right midfielder Ashley Vincent soon appeared in Boluo's defensive area. Looking at the young players in front of him, Vincent clearly remembered his coach's arrangement. Strengthen the flank assault and destroy the opponent's left defense zone. He is very satisfied with this arrangement, because to me, this opponent is just a chick. What could be simpler and easier than bullying a young rookie? Vincent turned slightly sideways, and without any gestures, his midfield teammates passed the ball to his feet. That he glanced at the open and unobstructed turf in front of him, and directly chose to speed up. Boluo raised his eyebrows abruptly, and immediately backed away quickly, trying to block the opponent's breakthrough route first, but he was still a step too late, and could only watch Vincent finish it half a meter away from him. Breakthrough. A smile emerged from the corner of Vincent's mouth. This opponent is simply too young. I don't even need any feints, just relying on my speed advantage, I can easily punch him through. Eagle eyes. A light flashed in Boluo's eyes, and a clear track emerged in his mind, but, that's all. He can accurately predict the position of the football 3 seconds later, but his legs are not strong enough to support himself to complete this interception. Failed defense. He gritted his teeth resentfully. And it wasted a skill. Looking at Vincent, who was so close at hand, Boluo felt extremely depressed. Just 3 minutes ago, he had vowed to boast in front of the coach, but the opponent's first breakthrough in the second half was so smooth. Boluo's cheeks were a little hot, but his eyes suddenly became fierce. 5 bloody characters suddenly jumped out of his mind. The ball is beyond human. He gritted his teeth, kicked his feet on the ground suddenly, his body center of gravity dropped suddenly, and he slid out against the turf. He tried his best to straighten his legs, and shoveled towards Vincent, who was about to make a cross. The Shrewsbury winger fell to the ground. Drop. The referee blew his whistle and rushed over, without saying a word, took out a yellow card from his pocket. Shrewsbury's bench suddenly jumped up and down, and the head coach Mickey Mellon shook his fist angrily, and yelled at the 4th official on the sidelines. This is a tackle from behind. 100% malicious foul. Definitely worthy of a red card. The 4th official looked at him indifferently. "Mr. Coach, please control your emotions." Mellon glanced at Vincent, who hadn't gotten up for a long time, and the veins on his forehead were exposed. "You should let that damn Wimbledon player control his movements instead of me controlling some shit." As the coach of a mere 4th-level league team, Mellon's education level is not too high. Under the excitement, he blurted out vulgar words, which made the 4th official frown again and again. But he still explained. It's a side tackle, not a back tackle. The home team coach Adre shrugged his shoulders calmly, then turned around and exhaled forcefully. Fortunately, it's just a yellow card. The second half has just started, he doesn't want to be sent off so early. But he still frowned and shook his head at assistant coach Cox. It's still very difficult on the left. Cox nodded slightly, his eyes turned to the focus area on the court. Polo, I'm sorry. The left midfielder Sean Rigg, who did not follow the coach's deployment and actively retreated to help defend, stretched out his hand with a little guilt, and pulled Polo up from the ground forcefully. Boluo patted the grass stalks and soil on his butt, and raised his eyebrows confidently. It's okay, I can handle it. Rigg curled his lips, disapproving of his self-confidence, but he didn't discourage the young man's enthusiasm. He just stood with him on the inside of the penalty area and built a human wall together. The players of New Wimbledon were ready to defend free kicks, but the players of the visiting team were not there immediately. They were still surrounded by Vincent, and most of them seemed a little anxious. The referee frowned and looked at it, beckoned to the sidelines, and raised his hand slightly. Watching the medical team rushing into the field, Shrewsbury coach Mellon gave the fourth official a fierce look, and roared again. This is a shameless foul. The fourth officer glanced at him, but said nothing. Their players are all injured, let him vent. Negative emotions from Ashley Vincent, +10. That guy is a ruthless person. Seeing Vincent being carried out of the field on a stretcher, the home team coach Adre couldn't help but bared his teeth. He thought of the vice-captain Smith who was shoveled into the hospital bed by Polo in the team training game. Cox focused on the player on the opposite side who was about to come off the bench. Joy Walker, who joined from an amateur team last month, is characterized by his confrontation ability, but Polo should not easily lose to him. Adley nodded slightly, and at the end of his gaze, Shrewsbury's top scorer Dan Swinner slowly walked up to the penalty spot. Svenner didn't observe too much, he raised his foot and rubbed the football over the wall. It could be seen that he wanted to shoot from the far corner, but unfortunately he failed to control the power and was directly confiscated by goalkeeper Ross Werner. F***CK. Sven flicked his arm a little annoyed, and saw that Werner had already thrown the ball high. He couldn't help but cursed again. **T. Wimbledon launched the first quick counterattack in the second half. End of this chapter. Chapter 10 Shooting Too Much. Attack. Rigg received a throw from the goalkeeper, turned around and yelled at his teammates. Counterattack. Before the wall of people dissipated, he passed the ball quickly. Dubis, Frampton, Connolly, the three forwards of the crazy gang formed a three-shot attack at this moment. Shrewsbury's players wanted to build a defense line near the penalty area at the first time, but it was too late. They could only step forward and quickly retreat towards their own half. As a fullback, Poluo, together with Suteran, Borman and others in the midfield, formed the second echelon of counterattack, closely following the three forwards 10 meters behind. Their head coach, Adelaide, had left his seat long ago, watching the ball twirling in the sky nervously. Rieger's wide-range transfer accurately found Dubis, who was advancing at high speed on the right side. The striker did not slow down to catch the ball, but directly moved the ball forward, choosing to continue charging towards the opponent's penalty area. The two defenders closest to him immediately rushed towards him, but before they could form a siege, Dubis feinted and passed the ball to the other side in an extremely uncomfortable posture. Shrewsbury's other centre-back had to pounce on Frampton who was in that position. Frampton completed the ferry with a header before the defender entangled him. The ball flew to the top of Shrewsbury's penalty area, and the visiting team opened the door in the middle. Adre, who was standing on the sidelines, couldn't help clenching his fists. After these two pulls, Shrewsbury hastily organized a defensive line that was already in disarray. Everyone could only watch helplessly as the number 3 striker of the crazy gang, Connolly, drove straight in from the middle. Shrewsbury did not have any players can interfere with him. Goalkeeper Jason Lutweiler immediately abandoned the goal. He wanted to limit the opponent's shooting angle to the minimum range, but Connolly's actions were more decisive. Before the goalkeeper had time to break out of the penalty area, Connolly shot a burst. Boom! Connolly's shot was so powerful that the ball barely rotated, and it roared towards the visiting team's goal like a shell fired. Polo, who was 7 or 8 meters away, seemed to see a white light flying straight from Connolly's feet to the opponent's goalkeeper. The terrified goalkeeper subconsciously moved forward with both hands, and the pressure in his palms suddenly increased. A gust of wind blew in from between his hands, but the ball was blocked by him. The coach of the visiting team, Melon, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and exhaled in shock. Fortunately, he shot too straight, not very powerful. Before the breath was finished, it came to an abrupt end. Frank Sutherland, the new Wimbledon second echelon charge member, appeared at the first place where the ball landed. A defender pounced on him immediately, but the 21-year-old midfielder, who is on loan from Premier League side Queen's Park Rangers, showed the technical ability befitting his status as he sprinted to stretching out his right foot. He completed a very light pass before the opponent blocked him. The ball drew a shallow arc in the air and found another midfielder, Danny Boorman, who was waiting for a rabbit on the right. This veteran, who also just joined the team in Sichuan, is already 35 years old. He obviously didn't want to miss this opportunity, so he raised his thigh without any hesitation. Boom! With the veteran's explosive shot against the ball, Melon's heart suddenly stopped again on the sidelines. Fortunately, Boorman's shooting position was a little far away, and the visiting team's defender, who was back in place, raised his right foot by a ghost, causing the ball's flying direction to slightly shift. Boom! Goalkeeper Leutwiler crashed directly into the side net in a panic, and the ball hit the angle between the crossbar and the post by accident, and was then ejected high out of the penalty area by the defender. Huh! It's okay, it's okay. Melon patted his chest and finally let out his rough breath. His eyes followed the ball to the middle, but suddenly froze again. In that very open area, a dark blue figure appeared without warning. 1. The two shots from New Wimbledon gave Boluo time to rush from the backcourt to the frontcourt, and the ball that was cleared by the opponent's defender flew lightly in front of his eyes. A direct long shot from 30 meters away from the goal. He is not good at it. Joey Walker, who was originally defending on the edge of the penalty area, immediately turned around and rushed towards him, trying to get rid of the danger immediately. Otter, the home team coach standing on the sidelines, quickly shouted, "Spread it! Spread it!" No wonder he was so nervous. Almost all of his team pressed up. Once the ball is lost at this moment, the midfielder cannot form an effective interception at all, and I am afraid that he can only let the opponent do whatever he wants. Boluo didn't hear the head coach's voice, his eyes were only on the falling football. Of course he knew that there were only two central defenders behind him, and he would be responsible for conceding the ball, but this did not affect his decision. His team needs to keep attacking. Boluo didn't wait for the ball to continue to fall, but went up to meet the ball, and pushed the ball up again with his forehead. The ball drew a shallow arc in the air, passed over Joey Walker's head, and he followed closely, passing Walker's side. Walker, who had just picked up the speed, slammed on the brakes, but was pushed to the ground by the huge inertia, and could only watch his opponent walk away. Fill in. The coach of the visiting team, Melon, roared through gritted teeth. The home team coach Otter was also nervous and sweaty. Pass the ball. The visiting team's half was already in a panic. Shrewsbury's defensive system had already been overwhelmed by this quick counterattack, and it was too late to reorganize the defense at this moment. What's more, New Wimbledon's three forwards nailed the opposing four defenders in the penalty area, while their midfielder was restrained by Boorman, Sutherland, Rigg and others. It may appear beside Boluo within 3 seconds. 3 seconds is enough for a player to complete a complete set of movements of chasing and stopping the ball. And 3 seconds later, Boluo had dribbled into the inside of the penalty area. The two central defenders of the visiting team finally made a decision. They gave up marking Connolly and other forwards, and chose to jump in front of the goal to block the biggest threat. But Boluo's movements were faster than theirs. As soon as he broke into the penalty area, he volleyed directly. Oh! Goalkeeper Leutwiler just broke free from the entanglement of the side net, and before he could make any saves, he saw a white shell fly across the goal line. 2-1. In the 63rd minute, New Wimbledon rewrote the score again. Boluo scored his first goal for the Crazy Gang. This is also his first official game goal after becoming a professional player. End of this chapter. Chapter 11. This debut will give you 10 points. Yes. New Wimbledon boss Ardley punched the air. Although this game is far less important to him than the League Cup 3 days later, as a head coach, who would really like a loss. His assistant, Cox, was just as excited. If we can maintain this result until the end, not only will the team's morale be higher, but the competitive atmosphere within the team will also be more positive. Adre nodded repeatedly. Indeed, seeing the outstanding performance of the substitute players, those main players sitting on the bench will definitely work harder in the next game. Is this horse riding in? Boluo, who stopped in his tracks, went blank for a moment. He never thought that he would score an official goal in this game, and he didn't know how to celebrate for a while. Fortunately, Rig, Borman and other teammates immediately surrounded him and pushed him to the ground. Rig, who instigated this counterattack, put his arm around his shoulder and laughed loudly. "I've been waiting for you to cross the middle, but I didn't expect you to choose to shoot." Connolly and Sutherland could only smile and shake their heads. As the players who took the first and second shots, they were obviously out of luck, so they could only act as green leaves willingly. When Boluo and his teammates celebrated to their heart's content, he received negative emotions from the opposite side one after another. Joey Walker's negativity, +1. Jason Lutweiler, +2. Mike Jackson, assistant, +1. Mickey Mellon, Bishop, +2. The negative emotions of more than 20 people rushed into his mind, so that he almost forgot to return to the middle circle. When this wave of emotions was harvested, Boluo was pleasantly surprised to find that Shrewsbury's team had contributed 36 experience points to him. Coupled with the gains from the previous games, his experience bar has skyrocketed from 14 before the game to 66 today. Upgrading, it doesn't seem to be that difficult. Shrewsbury coach Mellon gritted his molars and thought for a full minute. When the home team players finally finished celebrating, Mellon finally made the decision to substitute. "Let's call 3-4-3 instead." Assistant coach Jackson froze for a moment, but faithfully carried out his order. They pushed Joey Walker, who was replaced in the second half, to the winger position, and moved the right back to the midfielder to comprehensively strengthen the offensive ability of the midfielder. Wimbledon's coaching staff not only did not show any nervous look, but wanted to laugh a little. Adele waved the flag, and the bench was shaken for a while. Mellon's eyes suddenly became dull. Damn bastard." In the 68th minute, Wimbledon replaced Akinfenwa. Shrewsbury's three defenders felt a tight ass in unison. The meaty striker with a height of 180 and a weight of 102 seems to have no sense of existence most of the time, because his teammates are all playing iron buckets in the backcourt, and the ball has been flying back and forth over the home team's penalty area. Akinfenwa couldn't even touch the ball. But when Wimbledon got their first counter-attack in the 83rd minute, Akinfenwa, who was resting for 15 minutes in the middle circle, turned into a heavy tank. Boluo and other backcourt teammates watched him dumbfounded as he ran all the way for 30 meters, easily knocked over two defensive players who were double-teaming him, and then sent the football into the goal of the visiting team. 3-1. Shrewsbury could not recover. Drip, drip, drip. A few minutes later, 3 long whistles announced the official end of the first league round of the new season, and a 3-pointer was exchanged for a rotation lineup. For coaches such as Adley and Cox, it was no different from a surprise. Immediately rushed to the green field, with one after another enthusiastic hugs, to express my heartfelt thanks to the players. Boluo was no exception. He was held in Adre's arms so hard that the other's stubbled chin almost stuck to his mouth. Cox, who was following closely, couldn't help laughing when he saw his disgusted expression. "Good job, lad." Adre finally let him go, nodding vigorously. "As the first professional game in your life, I will give you 10 points. He played the whole game without making major mistakes, sent 5 successful interceptions, 2 clearances in the penalty area, 3 high-altitude balls, and a goal to overtake the score. He even abolished the opponent's main winger. Such a performance, what else is the head coach dissatisfied with?" Adre patted Boluo on the shoulder, and pointed to the cheering fans on the sidelines. "Go. We are Wimbledon. The blood of the crazy gang is passed down here." More than 3,000 home fans were singing and dancing on the sidelines. When they saw the players walking towards the stands, they immediately burst into cheers. Long live Wimbledon! Boluo, along with other teammates, raised his hands to the cutest guys and clapped vigorously to express his inner gratitude. Looking at those happy fans, he couldn't help feeling a little emotional. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, it would be hard to believe that a low-level team like New Wimbledon, which is mixed in the fourth level, can still have such a loyal team. Supporters. Hey guys, sign me up. A slightly old voice interrupted his emotion. Polo looked up. It was a male fan over half a century old. He held up a blue scarf and waved it to the players. Phillips, the oldest in the team, greeted him with a smile, took the scarf and was the first to write his name. Oliver, how is this summer? The old fans nodded and said with a smile. Mark, you must be promoted to League One this season. Phillips laughed and handed the scarf to Akinfenwa. I also want to go to League One and earn a lot of money. Akinfenwa also showed a confident smile. Dude, don't worry, with me this season, upgrading is just a small case. Seeing his arm thicker than his own thigh, Oliver seemed really relieved. It's all up to you, Adebayor. The first league game of the new season came to an end. The head coach simply encouraged the players a few words, and then announced that all the players were disbanded and they had a rest. After all, it is only the fourth-level league. There is no post-match press conference, let alone TV broadcasts and media interviews. Polo can only find a short and concise game report on Wimbledon's official website, which is one of the few news report. However, he didn't care about appreciating the photos of his own goals in the game report. The game had just ended, and the freshness and excitement of participating in a professional game for the first time quickly faded. The exhaustion brought about by the high tension for 90 minutes immediately surrounded him. After taking a hot bath, he fell asleep on the bed in the apartment. As soon as he closed his eyes, a vast green field once again appeared in his mind. The scenes of this game are presented like a replay video. During the replay, he can clearly observe every action he makes, and he can even choose to play it back in slow motion. He opened his eyes suddenly and let out a complaint. I don't want to watch tactical replays. I want to sleep. End of this chapter. Chapter 12. What are you looking at me for? Chapter 12. What are you looking at me for? The excellent performance in the first show did not change the coach's positioning of Boluo. In the group match on the second day, he still could only play the role of imaginary enemy for the main lineup. He wants to simulate the next opponent Milton Keynes left back, and constantly meet the impact of the main lineup. The two forwards Akinfenwa and Dubas, the midfielders Franken and Sutherland, and even the right-back Fuller all ran to his defensive area, wanting to act recklessly here. No way, who made him the rookie with the lowest qualifications and the shortest time to get in touch with the team, or was he temporarily pulled from the central defender to the wing to make up for it, who would not bully him? Head coach Adre was a little dissatisfied with the player's choice of bullying the weak and fearing the strong, but before he made a sound, he saw Polo use a fierce interception to overturn the old captain Fuller who wanted to pass the ball to the ground. Negative sentiment from Barry Fuller, +2. Do you really think of me as a persimmon? Polo, who was on the rise, didn't care about Fuller, who was rolling around with his legs wrapped around his legs, and directly dribbled the ball from the left to the opposite half, wanting to take advantage of the situation to launch a quick counterattack. It's a pity that his skills are not enough to support the completion of thousands of miles alone riding. He just dribbled the ball across the center line, but was stopped one-on-one by the opposing midfielder. Cox, the guest referee assistant coach, blew the timeout whistle at this time, and then rushed to Fuller who was lying on the ground immediately, and asked with great concern. Are you all right, Barry? Fuller stood up slowly with the support of his teammates, moved his legs carefully, and nodded with lingering fear. It should be fine, coach. The moment he was overthrown, Fuller suddenly remembered, the last vice-captain, Smith, who wanted to bully Polo, is still in the hospital waiting for recovery. Cox breathed a sigh of relief, and told the players with a serious face. It's good to cheer up and train hard, but no one wants to get injured. Polo shrugged, and muttered in his heart. My opponent, Milton Keynes 2 days later, won't be as gentle as me. With the conscience of heaven and earth, Boluo definitely did not mean to curse his teammates, and he did not expect that he would also have such a precise, crow's mouth, skill. 2 days later, on August 8, at the MK Stadium, home of Milton Keynes, New Wimbledon only played for less than 12 minutes before they encountered an unexpected blow. Their old captain, right-back Barry Fuller, was tripped by the opponent during a tackle. He struggled to climb twice, but he still couldn't stand up after all. He could only close his eyes in pain, hugged his injured leg with one hand, and raised his hand high towards the sidelines to signal a substitution. F***K. *T. Adele and Cox uttered foul language almost at the same time, and their eyes quickly swept to the bench. Boluo immediately held his breath, kept his chest up and his head up, a gesture of self-recommendation. It's a pity that the two coaches didn't consider him at all, but quickly called the first substitute of the right back, Adedagios Raja in 93. The latter didn't have time to warm up and prepare, so he just took off his coat, while listening to the coach face-to-face instructions. Boluo sighed in disappointment, watching Fuller limp to the bench supported by the medical staff. He didn't know if it was a psychological effect. He felt that Fuller looked at him, as if faintly with a trace of resentment. "What are you looking at me for? It's not me who destroyed you." Boluo didn't have any psychological pressure, and stared back unceremoniously. "I've already reminded you that the players in Milton Keynes are definitely more ruthless than us, but you don't pay attention at all." Barry Fuller's injury and retirement undoubtedly dealt a huge blow to the team's morale. Raja, who had just come off the bench, obviously couldn't replace the role of the old captain. Midfielder Dele Alli successfully broke through, the latter crossed in front of the goal, and forward Afobe easily pushed the shot. The score was rewritten accordingly, the stands were thunderous, and the fans of the home team burst into cheers. The Dons. A large number of fans even unceremoniously showed their middle fingers to the visiting team. "See you, country bumpkins. Poor ghosts don't deserve to play football. Cry for these mud legs." This was originally a game with clear strengths and weaknesses. Coupled with the away game and the captain's injury and retirement, it is even one goal behind at this time, and the situation of New Wimbledon is worrying. But their morale was not weakened by this. Instead, those few supporters raised their heads high and used loud and clear songs to launch a counterattack against their opponents who were dozens of times their own. "You know what you are, you franchise bastard. You know what you are, you dealer bastards. Where were you when you were us? Where were you when you were us? You sold the team and F***ck it up. You sold the team and screwed it up. Your supporter is F***king useless. Your fans are worthless." Milton Keynes vs New Wimbledon. The relationship between them is not a derby in the same city, but they are mortal enemies that cannot be resolved. Because it is related to the orthodox inheritance of the name of Crazy Gang. The fanaticism of the fans in the stands made the players on the field excited as well. The adrenaline of the players on both sides soared rapidly, and the fighting movements gradually became more intense. Action scenes were staged everywhere. Speaking of physical confrontation, Kwang Gang is not afraid at all, this is their traditional style. What's more, there is also the strongest player in the UK who has joined this season, Adebayor Akinfenwa. In the 33rd minute, Wimbledon midfielder Rigg launched a long pass from the side. Akinfenwa overwhelmed the opponent's central defender Carl Becker and received the pass. Then he quickly adjusted his posture and dribbled the ball into the penalty area. Shen's shot equalized the score. 1-1. Adebayor. There was loud cheers in the stands of the visiting team. Akinfenwa waved vigorously to these fans, and then slapped the team badge on his chest heavily to express his gratitude to them for supporting him. At this moment, he has become the hero of the Crazy Gang. Nothing is more recognized by fans than capturing the enemy's city. The morale of Wimbledon was greatly encouraged. With this fighting spirit, they once turned their backs on the away side. In the next 10 minutes, Milton Keynes could only adopt a defensive stance and temporarily compare the edge of the visiting team. One more goal. Looking at the one-sided situation, the fans of the visiting team became more fanatical, and their cheers completely suppressed the voice of the home team. Adre and Cox on the sidelines were equally excited. If the team can score another goal in the first half, the morale of the opposite side will undoubtedly suffer a serious blow, and the situation in the second half will be more favorable for our side. But the reality immediately told them. Don't think too beautifully. When the time entered the stoppage time period, Wimbledon's offensive finally weakened, and a failed pass gave the opponent a chance to launch a quick counterattack. Just passing with 2 feet, Milton Keynes's front has already advanced to the core area of the visiting team. Forward Afobe took the lead and attracted two central defenders to double team, followed by Dele Alli who dribbled the ball straight into the right flank of the defense. The right back Raja, who came off the bench, immediately clung to him as if he was facing a formidable enemy, but Ali made a sudden stop and changed direction, throwing him halfway away and easily breaking into the penalty area. Seeing that Ali was about to form a shot, Raja's mind went blank, and he subconsciously used both hands and feet, and directly hugged Ali to the ground. Drop. With a sharp long whistle, Ali fell heavily on the turf. The home team coach Robinson jumped up and roared at the fourth official. "This is a crime." The fourth official glanced at him and didn't even bother to say anything. There was no need for him to speak, the referee on the field had already shown a bright red card. Raja, who came off the bench in the 21st minute, got a red card. Home team Milton Keynes won a penalty. The face of the visiting team coach Adele turned pale in an instant. Prepare for the critical decisive battle for 2 weeks, why did it become like this? End of this chapter. Chapter 13. You dare to have more A's than me. Drip, drip, drip. The referee blew the whistle to end the first half shortly after Afobe scored a penalty kick with a burst shot. The score of 2-1 brought the pressure back to the visiting team. The home team players looked relaxed and walked towards the locker room, talking and laughing, but the visiting team players felt their legs were as heavy as lead. Coach Adele frowned even more. The plot of the entire first half was ups and downs, but in the end he still developed towards the situation he was least willing to accept. He watched the players move into the locker room step by step, standing alone in the tunnel blowing the cold wind. London in August is obviously very hot, but Adelaide seems to be in an ice cellar. He thought for a full 3 minutes, until the staff reminded him that he still had no clue, but became more and more irritable. The away game fell behind by 1 goal, the captain was injured and retired early, and the right back who came off the bench got a red card, and there was only one less player to fight in the 45 minutes of the second half. What can he do in this situation? The biggest question now is whether to make up for the gap on the right back. Wimbledon is a team with a strong offense and a weak defense. If there are only 3 defenders in the defense line, they will be blown away by the opponent in minutes. But if the frontcourt players are removed, it will undoubtedly weaken the offensive ability. How can the team equalize the score? Take a look at the back line of this game. The main left back Johnson has been recuperating from his injuries, and the current left back Kennedy was originally a temporary cameo, and his performance in the first half was already very difficult. The 2 centre backs Goodman and Phillips were old partners last season, but if the 3A players supported for a full 45 minutes, Otter absolutely dare not rest assured. The void at right back must be filled. Adre shook his head and pushed open the door of the locker room. For a mere 4th-tier team, the options left to him are pitifully small. Among 18 players, he quickly found his target. Polo, you came off the bench in the second half. Lee Polo was not too surprised by the head coach's reaction. There are a total of 7 people on the substitute list. Except for 1 sent off by a red card and 1 goalkeeper, among the remaining 5 people, there are only 2 defenders, myself and Ryan Sweeney, but the latter has an astonishing height of 1 meters. It is obviously too difficult to change to fullback. Adele has no choice. After struggling for 4 or 5 minutes, the miserable head coach finally made a decision. Polo, you replace David Connolly, forward. In the second half, we will continue to defend and counterattack, but at any time, the defense must ensure that the 3 are in place, and we must not allow the opponent to seize the space again. After the head coach arranged the tactics, the assistant coach Cox pulled Lee Boluo, who had made an impromptu appearance, aside to start a small talk. You have to be careful of Dele Alli. Although he is tall, he is not clumsy at all. He is very good in speed and dribbling skills. When defending, he focuses on blocking and pressing. Don't stick too close or go out easily. Lee Polo nodded. There was no need for the coach to repeatedly emphasize this point. In the first half, he could see clearly that Raja had no choice but to make a big mistake because he couldn't deal with Ali's breakthrough. He glanced at the information Cox handed over. Dele Alli, born in April 1996, has just turned 4 years old, but he is already the absolute main force of Milton Keynes, and even the hopeful star of the entire English football. The position is an attacking midfielder. Last season, he played 37 games in all competitions and scored 7 goals and 6 assists. His performance is extremely outstanding. I heard that several Premier League clubs are paying close attention to his development. A transfer to the Premier League. Good at inserting in the back row, long-range shots, ball sense, long passes, interceptions, steals, running. Weaknesses: physical confrontation, dribbling, concentration. Boluo looked at this document and showed a ferocious smile. Coach, I will let him experience firsthand how an amateur defender defends. Drop. As expected, the situation in the second half quickly turned into a halftime offensive and defensive drill. Milton Keynes, who had a numerical advantage, aggressively attacked Wimbledon's defense, oppressing the visiting team. Boluo, who came off the bench, was completely huddled in the penalty area together with other teammates. As the right back, he could only face the challenges of Milton Keynes' left players again and again. His main opponent was Dele Alli. Ali is obviously a little complacent at the moment. Not only did he send an assist in the first half, but at the last moment, with a wonderful personal breakthrough, the home team won a penalty kick and sent off one of the opponents, thus giving the team a complete upper hand. Scoring a goal, then the MVP of this game is naturally none other than him. Ali glanced at the young opponent who had just appeared on the opposite side. His name is printed on the back of the jersey. Lee. An A less than my ALI. It's just a nobody. Ali was full of confidence. He turned slightly and gestured backwards, and his teammates passed the ball to his feet knowingly. The position of right back has become a cursed place in Wimbledon. The first injured, the second red card, as the third successor, you can't escape the curse. Ali flicked the ball forward, his feet suddenly pushed the ground hard, and his whole body suddenly accelerated. Coming. Does he want to rely on speed to forcibly break through and pass from the bottom? Or stop suddenly, change directions, and shoot inside like dealing with Ozraja? Boluo, who was waiting in full force, suddenly felt as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He widened his eyes without thinking, not daring to let go of any details. There seemed to be a flash of light in front of his eyes, and the trajectory of the ball was clearly visible in his mind. The ball first rolls straight forward, and then suddenly jumps obliquely backward, thus completing the transformation of horizontal incision. Boluo took a deep breath. He must not be played around like Ozraja. In a blink of an eye, he followed Ali and rushed 5 or 6 meters toward the bottom line, and what happened afterwards was exactly the same as the prediction in his mind. A confident smile appeared on Ali's face, but his right foot slammed the football backwards. Everyone on the sideline saw only a white line flying out from under his feet. Coach Adele's heart tightened, and he swears directly. MMP. Cox also paled. This bastard. Although I reminded the players to be careful of Ali, no one thought that after only 5 minutes in the second half, Ali would repeat the old trick again. Once Boluo also copied Ozraja's mistake, on the visiting team's bench, but no one can Comio as a right back anymore. They can only collapse across the board and swallow the bitter fruit of a disastrous defeat at the mortal enemy's home court. Ali seems to have seen the future 3 seconds later. Faced with his own sharp breakthrough, the opposing defender had no choice but to foul and give the home team a penalty. At this moment, he felt that his legs were lighter than ever before. Best, Cruyff, Zidane, Ronaldinho, Messi, and Neymar seemed to be possessed at the same time. Making an emergency stop and changing direction plus horizontal incision is as easy as breathing for yourself. The ball is about to roll into the penalty area, less than 50 centimeters away from his right foot. Ali even deliberately slowed down by half a second. He wanted to give the defensive players a little reaction time. It's so boring to shoot directly, since it's a mortal enemy, of course we have to do our best to humiliate him. A second later, he saw a strong right leg. This right leg mercilessly swept the army on the edge of the penalty area. The defensive player on the opposite side not only blocked the rolling ball, but also swept Ali's supporting leg by the way. Dry. Ali, who had completely lost his center of gravity, soared into the air. Before he fell to the ground, he already felt that his calf no longer belonged to him. Oh. He fell heavily on the turf inside the penalty area, but he didn't even dare to roll. Beads of sweat oozed from his forehead. He stretched out his right hand and lifted it weakly to the sky, signaling to the outside. Team Doctor. My leg seems to be broken. Negative emotions from Dele Alli +10. End of this chapter. Chapter 14. Is this an amateur player? Negative emotions from Afubi +5. Reeves +3. Body Chi +2. Robinson +5. When the medical personnel confirmed that Ali could not continue the game, and even sent him directly to the hospital by ambulance, Lee Polo immediately received a wave of negative emotions from the players and coaches of the home team. Even the chief referee contributed 2 negative points, and waved to Lee Boluo, preparing to give him a warning. You bastard. I fucked your mother. You definitely did it on purpose. This is your professional quality. If you can't kick the ball, get out. Before Lee Polo could reach the referee, he was surrounded by angry home team players, many of whom were pushing and shoving. Lee Poluo, who was outraged by the public, did not have the slightest timidity to be subdued. He stuck his neck and argued. I kicked the ball first. It was a perfect tackle. No foul at all. He reacts too slowly and doesn't know how to dodge. Can he blame me? Seeing that this person was so arrogant, the players of the home team became even more furious. A strong man who was 5 big and 3 thick suddenly jumped up and kicked Lee Boluo's ass directly. Unprepared, Lee Boluo threw a vicious dog at him, and his mouth was full of the fragrance of grass and soil. Who the fuck did it? Before he had time to get up, Akinfenwa, Legay and others not far away rushed over, trying to find the field for him, and the situation on the field suddenly became more tense and hot. Drop. The quick-sighted referee blew the iron whistle to stop the players on both sides, took out 2 plastic cards from his chest pocket, and showed the red card to the player who just performed the flying kick without saying a word. Direct violence, a red card is not an exaggeration. Perhaps in order to appease the home team, the referee turned to the perpetrator of the turmoil, Lee Poluo, and upgraded the original verbal warning to a yellow card. I kicked the ball first, referee. Lee Polo still defended himself confidently, regardless of the darkened face of the head coach. No way, although he insisted that he touched the ball first, and this is not a 100% chance to score, but Ali's appearance is too miserable, and the home team players and fans are even more angry than ever. Under such circumstances, I am afraid it will be difficult to get out of the stadium alive. The central defender Mark Phillips, wearing the captain's armband, stopped him behind him and expressed his opinion to the referee on behalf of the team. No problem, Mr. Referee. Phillips, who has been in football for more than 10 years, of course knows that in this case, no matter how he defends the referee, it is meaningless at all. Even for his own life, the referee would definitely not be able to withdraw this yellow card. Damn, I was scared to death. The assistant coach Cox on the sidelines let out a sigh of relief, but his little heart was still beating wildly. Coach Adre also had a relaxed look on his face. The most threatening offensive core on the opposite side was injured and the main central defender was sent off, so the number of both sides returned to balance. In the 10-on-10 situation, Wimbledon's defensive pressure will undoubtedly be greatly reduced, and it may even find a chance to tie the score. Adre gritted his teeth and thought for a few seconds, then walked to the command area and made a gesture towards George Franken, the right midfielder closest to him. Don't lean too far back, properly strengthen the attack. The game finally resumed after a 5-minute hiatus, but the Milton Keynes players were still restless. They were very angry about the injuries of their teammates, and what made them even more unacceptable was that the perpetrator was calm as if nothing had happened, as if he had nothing to do with him. Soon, Lee Polo paid the price for his ruthless arrogance. A few minutes later, the opposite midfielder Ben Reeves dribbled the ball in front of him. Reeves, who is on loan from the Premier League team Southampton, is only 1.7 meters tall. Compared with Ali, who is 1.8 meters, he has faster feet and is more threatening when he dribbles. Unfortunately, he encountered a cheat. Lee Polo, who had finished cooling down, was poked off the ball cleanly by the latter before finishing a set of Marseille roundabouts. Negative sentiment from Ben Reeves, +1. Lee Polo, who successfully completed the defense, did not counterattack with the ball, but immediately handed over the ball to the midfielder Danny Bowman. Long pass to. The ball flew over a distance of 40 meters in the air, and found teammate Legay, who was advancing at high speed on the left side. In front of him, was an open field that was unguarded. Rig took the ball forward without any scruples, striding forward to catch up, causing Milton Keynes' formation to quickly move closer to the left, and a few seconds later, facing the opponent who was about to form a close rig again, he chose the cross without hesitation. His goal is of course Akinfenwa, who is at the forefront. Akinfenwa wanted to jump up to catch the ball with a lunge, but was grabbed by the home team defender and captain Leventon, who was close behind him. He could only look up and watch the ball pass by the two of them. Leventon just breathed a sigh of relief, but he saw a blue figure appearing behind him out of the corner of his eye. The opponent's right midfielder George Franken has already plugged in at high speed. At this moment, the overall formation of the home team has been pulled to the left by the previous large-scale transfer, and there is almost no defense on the right. Franken took the ball far forward and rushed to the edge of the home team's big penalty area in one breath, only to meet the number 1 fullback Callum McFadden, who defended him, but McFadden, who hastily returned to defend before and had time to set up his position, he saw Franken kicking in a cross. Akinfenwa at the front of the penalty area has already outflanked him. This time, he fully utilized his bear-like physical advantage. Although Leventon pulled hard, he still failed to hold him back. The British Isles facing the spinning ball, the muscle master hit the top, and the ball blasted into the net in response. 2-2. Wimbledon equalized again in the 62nd minute. Lee Polo, who had just crossed the center line, raised his arms high. Adley and Cox clapped vigorously on the sidelines, and the visiting team's bench cheered. The home team's bench was silent. Coach Robinson called his assistants to his side and asked with a livid face. The right back, who came off the bench, was really just an amateur. Several assistants looked at each other, and one of them pointed to the roster and answered him. He's really just moved from the amateurs to Wimbledon. Robinson still doesn't believe it. We thought he was going to be a weakness at Wimbledon, but now it looks like he's far more capable of defending one-on-one than we expected. An assistant added. And his defensive moves are very fierce, indeed, with the style of an amateur player. The others nodded repeatedly. The big difference between professional players and amateur players is the sense of proportion in their movements. The reason why amateur players are violent is not because they have strong fighting spirit, but because they can't control the range of their movements. Just like martial arts masters can go as far as they can, the more skilled a player is, the more accurately he can control his every movement, and he will never waste his energy easily. Robinson finally believed that Boluo was a rookie. After pondering for a while, he finally decided to implement his original tactics. Continue to strengthen the attack on this rookie. He has already received a yellow card. I don't believe he can last the whole game. End of this chapter. Chapter 15. The advantage is in me. In the new year, I wish all book friends and friends all the best and always be happy. It's entirely possible that Robinson's plan will succeed. In the next game, Boluo unexpectedly became the busiest person on the field. Milton Keynes' midfielders chose him as the key breakthrough target invariably. Wave. Facing the repeated bombing by 3 or 4 attackers, Polo was obviously in a hurry, and the only cheat skill he could rely on was still in the cooling down stage. If it wasn't for other teammates who had been defending him all the time, I'm afraid Wimbledon would be in trouble in minutes. Lose the ball. In fact, in just a few minutes, Polo had already been broken through twice by Afobe and Reeves respectively. If it wasn't for the fact that the League One players' shooting skills were still a bit rough, the score would have been rewritten long ago. The defensive pressure was so great that Boluo did not dare to hide his clumsiness at all. In the 71st and 82nd minutes, every time the plug-in had just cooled down, he unceremoniously used it, allowing him to complete 2 beautiful and precise interceptions. Coupled with the fact that the head coach replaced Akinfenwa, who had weak legs, with the tall and powerful young central defender Ryan Sweeney in 75 minutes, which further strengthened the defensive hardness in the penalty area. The score was maintained until the last minute of regular time. When the regular time came to an end, the 4th official on the sidelines slowly raised the electronic card. Injury time, 8 minutes. In the second half, there were player injuries and player conflicts. The 8-minute stoppage time was not surprising, but Otter frowned. He could see clearly that due to subjective and objective factors, his side was naturally at a disadvantage. Throughout the second half, his side was almost overwhelmed by the opponent. Milton Keynes shot 9 shots, 4 shots on target, and 11 shots. Corner kicks and 5 direct free kicks. Wimbledon only played 3 slightly threatening offensives in 45 minutes, and only Akinfenwa hit the goal once. Now even Akinfenwa has been replaced, which means that they have completely given up hope of counterattack. In addition, the physical fitness of many players has reached the limit, and now there are still physical sprints, and there are only 2 people who came off the bench in the second half. It's a pity they are all guards. It is more beneficial for us to drag into overtime. Seeing the stalemate, Robinson relaxed instead. They are already very tired, and they don't even have a positive striker. Even if they get an attacking opportunity, they will definitely not be able to grasp it. Before he finished his words, there was an omission in Wimbledon's defense. The left-back Kennedy was too weak when he cleared the siege, and even passed the ball directly to Afobe's feet. Fortunately, Afobe was also a little unprepared. He shot without opening the angle and was saved by goalkeeper Siae. "Look, hee." Robinson laughed confidently. Their 2 fullbacks are temporary guest appearances. It's amazing to be able to persist until now, but if they play another 30 minutes, they will definitely collapse. The assistants around him nodded. The boss is right. The advantage is mine. The home team's corner kick was laid out in a leisurely manner, and it took half a minute to set up the formation. Except for 1 free throw and 2 supplementary defenses, the other 6 players poured into the penalty area and crowded into a group with all 10 players of the visiting team. In a small restricted area, players from both sides were squeezed in at this moment. If the 2 sides hadn't been fined 1 person, the population density here would have been even greater. Boom! The players in Milton Keynes are generally not high in altitude. The height of the 2 central defenders is less than 1.8 meters 1.9. In terms of fighting for headers, they are compared with the young, strong, energetic and, meters tall Sweeney. I saw Sweeney jumped high in the crowd, shook his head vigorously, rubbed the ball out of the door, and lifted the air alarm. The ball spun to Sweeney's back right, and the area was empty at the moment. And the closest to this position is Wimbledon's right back. Boluo, who only came on as a substitute in the second half, is of course far more physically fit than the others who have played for 90 minutes. I saw him rush to the ball with 3 steps and 2 steps, so he prepared a big kick without even thinking about it. Kick out dozens of meters. But just as he raised his right foot, an idea popped out of his mind. Why don't you try to fight back? Adley and Cox on the sidelines were shocked to see that this amateur player did not make a big kick to clear the siege immediately, but kicked the ball straight forward. Otter's cheeks twitched. What is he going to do? Cox sighed. Even if he wants to fight back, no one can cooperate with him. The 2 forwards have already left the field, and the midfielder is exhausted at this moment. The only one who still has strength is the 1.9 meter 1 central defender who just cleared the ball with a header. No one on the field at Wimbledon could keep up with him. It doesn't matter. Boluo has already exerted his strength to run wildly. The 2 players left by Milton Keynes on the outside of the penalty area reacted quickly after a short stunned moment. The closer left-back Bardock quickly approached him, and the farther right-back McFadden went straight to Ben. Fong retreated at half-time, and the division of labor between the 2 was very clear. But even so, Baldock was still 1 step behind. Polo caught up with the ball near the halfway line, and then continued to stride forward to dribble the ball. Seeing him start dribbling, the coaches and fans of the home team relaxed a lot. Robinson even showed a calm smile. It's really amateur. More than just an amateur, Polo's dribbling even looked awkward. Every time he touches the ball, and catches the ball, he seems to be extremely nervous, and it seems that he will lose the ball if he is not careful. Seeing how amateurish he is, McFadden, who has already returned to the top of the penalty area, is also in a good mood. He is confident that he will complete a beautiful back and forth attack with Baldock, and completely kill the opponent's last hope. Oh shit! Boluo couldn't help cursing. I used to watch Ronaldo, Kaká, Messi, Hazard, Bale, etc. dribbling the ball and performing a one-stop game is as easy as drinking water and eating. How come I almost tripped myself after only running less than 20 meters? At least 30 meters away from the goal, McFadden on the opposite side is already close in sight, but he already feels his legs are weak. It's not because of overdraft, but because I don't have the confidence to pass the defender at all. Wealth and wealth are in danger, fight. Boluo gritted his teeth and made up his mind to push the ball horizontally in the next second. He was about to step forward to block McFadden, but he was in vain. He wanted to change direction immediately, but it was too late. Boluo slammed his feet on the ground, and the whole person rushed towards the ball like a vicious dog. McFadden is such a waste. This kind of extraordinary person can also be shaken away. The home team goalkeeper David Martin cursed his teammates secretly, clapped his hands vigorously, but did not move a bit. Of course he could see that the right defender on the opposite side performed like a rookie on the offensive end. A person who stumbles even with the ball is absolutely impossible to kick a subtle dead angle. Boluo caught up with football. Because Baldock has been following closely behind, he has no time to adjust, so he can only twist his body towards the goal with difficulty. Lifting his foot is a burst shot with all his strength. Vigorously miracle. The power is great, but the shooting angle is not tricky. Martin didn't dare to neglect, the whole person rose into the air, stretched out his palms together, and tried his best to expand his defensive area. With a bang, Martin's hands trembled. The opponent's shot was too powerful, and he didn't have the absolute confidence to hold the ball, so he could only choose the safest way to hold the ball out of the goal. In the 4th minute and 36th second of stoppage time, the visiting team got the first corner kick in the second half. End of this chapter. Chapter 16. We still have time. Drop. The referee blew his whistle shortly, pointed to the home team's corner flag area, and signaled the visiting team to get a corner kick. After completing the shot, Boluo fell to the turf at the top of the arc in the penalty area. He punched hard and hit the ground, looking a bit unwilling. Head coach Adele shook his head regretfully. His basic skills on the offensive end are too rough. If he can have the dribbling skills of Aziz or Dubis, it is entirely possible to score this goal. Cox patted him on the shoulder. You may be asking too much. A guard with a weekly salary of 300 yuan from the amateur league, you actually expect him to score 3 goals in a row? Adre couldn't help laughing dumbly, and turned his eyes to the field. A few seconds ago, the players who were defending the visiting team's penalty area took a walk to recover their strength, while marching to another penalty area 100 meters away, and by the way, they could discuss the tactics to be adopted. Only the central defender Sweeney, who came off the bench at the end, quickly crossed the entire field and quickly came to the home team's goal. With a height of 1.9 meters, he immediately became the key defensive target of Milton Keynes, and was double-teamed by 2 central defenders. Rieger, who was in charge of free throws, walked slowly to the corner flag area, picked up the football and rubbed it on the jersey vigorously, wiping off all the mud and sweat standing on the outside, then carefully placed it on the turf, and took a step back, looked up to observe the situation in front of the door. Players from both sides stood up one after another, tugging and colliding in front of the goal, and even squeezed the goalkeeper of the home team to know where to stand. The referee couldn't stand it anymore, and while blowing his whistle, he signaled them to keep a friendly distance. After the 2 parties finally, reluctantly, separated, half a minute passed. Rig looked at those teammates expressionlessly. As one of the few consecutive starters, his physical fitness has already been alarmed. The rest time of tens of seconds is precious to him. Drop. The referee finally exited the penalty area and blew a whistle towards the corner flag area. Rig took a breath, and made an arc after taking a run-up step. Boom. The width of the MK field is about 72 meters. Even if Rieger's physical strength is exhausted, this pass will never exceed 36 meters. It will never exceed 1 second. In just 1 second, the players on both sides in front of the goal are actually not enough to move much distance. Except for Boluo, who has eagle eyes. Before Rig kicked the ball, Boluo had already started to move. His eyes could clearly see the trajectory of the biography, and he even made a bold judgment based on his own experience. Those players in front of the goal may not be able to stop this cross. Sure enough, when the ball flew over the goal, the tall and burly Sweeney wanted to fight for the top, but was grabbed by the arm of the opponent's defender behind him, unable to complete the jump. The ball flew over the goal and fell quickly, and Sweeney could only watch it fly out of the small penalty area, while preparing to retreat to defend. But just as he had time to take a step back, his eyes couldn't help trembling, and a blue figure faced the ball. Leaping high. Sweeney couldn't help squinting his eyes, he saw the white number on the shorts. 1. Boluo turned his body slightly, facing the flying ball with his forehead. Although he is only a defender, many defenders are even better than forwards in header. There is no interference from defensive players around, and his physical fitness is still abundant. This header is solid. Just as the goalkeeper had time to take a step out, a black and white shadow entered the net with a whoosh from beside him. 3-2. At 6 minutes and 23 seconds of stoppage time, Wimbledon took the lead for the first time in an away game. Adley and Cox on the sidelines opened their mouths wide open, but they still looked at each other in blank dismay. Adre couldn't believe his eyes. Overtake. Cox was equally astonished. An amateur player with a weekly salary of 300 yuan, really scored a goal. But before they woke up from the shock, they saw the number 1 player who had completed the overtake rushing towards him from 50 meters away. In the last game, Boluo, who was unprepared, showed no performance after scoring a goal, but this time it was different. He rushed directly to the coach's bench and lifted the head coach up. Unprepared, Otter danced in mid-air, but his face was full of ecstasy. "Put me down. I want to celebrate with you." Negative emotions from David Martin +2. Levington +2. McFadden +5. Baldock +5. Robinson +10. While the visiting team celebrated wantonly on the sidelines, the coaches and players of the home team fell into a desperate silence. Captain Levington immediately picked up the ball from the net and wanted to return to the center circle to kick off again, but saw that his teammates were completely indifferent. He couldn't help but slap Baldock on the back. "Cheer up, we still have time." Baldock turned his head a little stiffly, with frustration written all over his face. "Is there still time?" Levington gritted his teeth hard, but still encouraged his teammates. "Never give up until the last second, they are only a 4th-tier team." Baldock nodded reluctantly, watching him trot all the way to the middle circle. 8 minutes of stoppage time, it's almost 7 minutes now. When those bastards are done celebrating, how many seconds are left? Wimbledon finally ended the long celebration. If the opponent's coach hadn't protested, if the home team's more than 1 fans hadn't booed the sky, Boluo and his teammates could still celebrate for another 3 minutes. The time has come to 7 minutes and 31 seconds. Even if the referee wants to procrastinate, the time left for the home team will not be too much. Cheer. This ball is absolutely defended. Adre, his assistants, and the players on the bench all stood on the sidelines, cheering for the 10 players on the field. Except for the goalkeeper, the other 9 players were all surrounded in the penalty area, forming 2 impregnable walls. In front of this purely human defense, it was impossible for Milton Keynes's offense to penetrate. They passed continuously on the periphery for more than half a minute, but they still couldn't find a gap that could break the deadlock. In the end, they could only use a long shot. The attack is over. The football was blocked at the first line of defense. This time, Rieger made a big-footed clearance and kicked the ball high and far, without giving Boluo a chance to chase the ball and counterattack. When the ball began to fall, the referee blew the whistle in time. Drip, drip, drip. The injury time of 9 minutes and 20 seconds is finally over. 3-2. Adre let out a long sigh of relief, and a bright smile appeared on his face. The new Wimbledon led by him killed the enemy he most wanted to kill in the away game. End of this chapter. Chapter 17. The new opponent turned out to be Mr. Ardley. How do you feel now? Although it was only the first round of the League Cup, the organizer still set up a post-match press conference. Of course, there were only 4 or 5 media in the entire venue. Facing the reporter's question, Otter made no secret of his true feelings, and even smiled. "Yes, this feeling is so good, I want to fly into the sky. I definitely don't want to touch my wife again in a day, because the two feelings are too far apart." The home team coach Robinson couldn't help frowning. After all, he is the head coach of a low-level team, and his mouth is full of vulgar standards. "But, what can I do? Who made you lose to him at home? Competitive sports, winners and losers, no matter how upset you can only blame yourself. Just listen to the reporter continue to ask. You once encountered great difficulties. What made you catch up and complete the reversal in the second half?" Adre nodded vigorously. It is true that the team captain was off due to injury, the young substitute was sent off with a red card, and the away game conceded 2 goals in a row. This first half was like a nightmare, but the head coach continued with determination in his eyes. Back in the locker room, I told the players that Wimbledon is never a team that gives up easily, not to mention, our opponent is Milton Keynes. We must show the spirit of the Mad Gang, and we must be worthy of the blue team on our body. I am worthy of those die-hard fans who traveled with the team. Robinson pouted. If I hadn't underestimated the enemy and been careless, it would be useless for you to have fighting spirit and spirit. While Adelaide was still impassioned to add his own role, Boluo, who had changed his clothes, had already started the post-match settlement. Although he only played more than 50 minutes in the second half, as the short board of the whole team, he has suffered the most violent siege of the opponent for a long time, so he also handed over quite excellent defensive data. 5-3-1-6-1. Of course, he also caused the opponent's offensive core Dele Alli to be injured, let the opponent's central defender get a red card, and scored the final lure that determined the outcome. With such a performance, he also completed a wave of crazy harvest on the entire Milton Keynes team, from the coach to the players, contributing up to 61 negative emotions for him. You know, in the first round of the league, he started and played the whole game, only to gain 36 emotion points. Still, a mortal enemy is interesting enough. Looking at the experience bar that has skyrocketed by a large amount, Boluo felt refreshed. An emotionless electronic voice sounded in my ears again. LV1129/100368/700 LV116/100. He chose to nod without hesitation. There was another ding in my mind. Current level, LV2, total experience, 129/1000. Boluo was dumbfounded. It's too bad, isn't it? The upgrade experience of the second level is 10 times that of the first level. The electronic voice ignored him, but continued to ask. Do you want to exchange 5 upgrade attribute points? Boluo hesitated for a second. Can't you exchange for new skills? After this thrilling game, he is very eager to gain offensive ability. If the last long-distance attack can be scored directly, there is no need to gamble on another corner kick attack. The electronic voice answered him without hesitation. Currently no permission, please choose to exchange for 5 attribute points, or exchange for 50 experience points of existing skills. Boluo didn't hesitate this time. Exchange for 5 attribute points. The 7 attributes in front of him suddenly became 3-dimensional, and each number was waiting for his favor. Speed, 76. Ball possession, 45. Shots, 19. Passes, 23. Defense, 68. Body, 74. Spirit, 63. Total score, 372 out of 700. Boluo took 2 deep breaths, and made his choice consciously. Defense, 68-73. Total score, 368-373/700. He put all the 5 attributes he just obtained on defense. Instead of strengthening the poor offensive ability, let's do our job first. An hour later, it was 11 frowny-faced AM London time. Boluo was dragged by other teammates to a nearby bar. Of course, he is very clear that as a professional player, he should try to keep his contact with alcohol products as little as possible, but, a 4th-tier club, who cares so much about you? The lore and elimination of the mortal enemy at home, such an achievement is indeed worthy of celebration. What's more, the high-spirited head coach Adele promised in person at the press conference. There is no alcohol prohibition or curfew tonight, and everyone will not go home until they are drunk. Of course, relying on the economic strength of this group of players with a weekly salary of less than 2,000 yuan, it is simply not enough to book out the most luxurious entertainment venues in London. What they choose is just a public bar. Veteran captain Barry Fuller, who attended the party injured, was the first to raise his glass. Guys, I'm sorry to be injured in such an important game. I really wanted to beat Milton Keynes myself. I'm glad you didn't let me down. Oh who? Someone uttered a strange cry, and the box was filled with the sound of clinking wine glasses. Fuller raised his chin towards Boluo. Little guy, you played well. Boluo was not humble at all, he laughed and responded to him. Captain, you and the vice-captain should take good care of your injuries, and I will guard the right side for you." Under the dim light, he didn't notice that Fuller's face seemed to become more gloomy. But the prompt that followed made him very clear. Negative emotions from Barry Fuller +2. Lee Polo was taken aback. "Obviously no longer in the game, why do you still receive negative emotions? Is this the change after the upgrade?" The new Wimbledon club, which had been partying all night, had to cancel the training plan for the second day. Until the third morning, some people still showed up at the training base in a daze. "Good morning, gentlemen. There is no time to sober you up. The next game is less than 60 hours away." Assistant coach Cox yawned, rubbed his nose, and turned to Lee Polo. "Unfortunately, we have to lose Captain Barry Fuller, and his first substitute, Adedagios Raja, at right back. I'm afraid it's up to you. Fuller will be injured for at least 3 weeks, and Raja's red card will make him suspended for 3 games, which means that Lee Polo will automatically become the team's first choice for right back in the next league game. Get a starter for nothing." Facing the coach's expectation, Lee Polo nodded calmly in response. Seeing that the players are in good condition, the head coach Otter is not happy at all. "Our schedule this month will be very tight, which is equivalent to going through the Devil's schedule in advance. There are 2 games every week. This start may be a bit difficult for us." The only remaining third captain, Mark Phillips, expressed his determination on behalf of the players. "We can even beat a League One team like Milton Keynes, so don't worry too much about your league opponents." Adre's eyes were even more melancholy. "I'm not worried about the league, what worries me now is, the second round of the League Cup." Phillips froze for a moment. "Has the result of the lottery come out? Who is our opponent?" Adre scratched his hair vigorously. "Manchester United." After hearing this name, the training ground suddenly fell into a strange silence. Adre and Cox looked at each other, and each showed a wry smile. Such a reaction is really normal. Manchester United, referred to as Manchester United. They are not the same as Milton Keynes. They are the top giants in England, Europe and the world, and they are the unique overlords in the Premier League era. Behemoth, aircraft carrier. Even if Ferguson just retired a year ago, even if Manchester United played in a mess last season, it will not affect Manchester United's status in the British Isles in the slightest. Watching the silent players, Cox coughed to break the deadlock. The game against Manchester United is 2 weeks away. Considering our intensive schedule, this game can be properly rotated. Although he said, proper rotation, everyone could hear that he meant, give up directly. "Coach, I disagree." The third captain Phillips stood up directly. "Why can't we fight with all our strength?" Cox froze. "Go all out against Manchester United?" Phillips grinned. "We are crazy gangs. Even if they are the giants of the Premier League, what is there to be afraid of?" As an old player of the team, he understands the traditional temperament of the team better than the first and second captains. Driven by him, Akinfenwa, Dubas, Rigg, Franken and others also expressed their approval. "Yes, we are not afraid of Manchester United. Manchester United will definitely underestimate us, we can definitely catch him by surprise. Yes, Manchester United has just changed coaches and is still in the rebuilding phase. We have a chance to win. It doesn't matter to Lee Polo, anyway, Fuller is still recovering from his injury, no matter whether he rotates or not, he will probably have his own position on the back line. He also fully understands the feelings of his teammates. Cup competitions such as the League Cup and the FA Cup have always been called hotbeds of unpopularity. Those Premier League giants often capsize on low-level teams, thus completing the transformation of a carp jumping over the dragon's gate and reaching the sky in one step. Facing the players who had already started discussing the probability of winning, Cox could only ask the head coach for help. Otter shrugged his shoulders. "Since you all think this way, I have to respect everyone. But, the premise is that the previous 3 rounds of the league must not be played too badly. If it affects the results of the league, it will still have to be rotated." The players cheered without thinking. "That's natural." Seeing the smile finally revealed on Adre's face, Lee Polo suddenly understood. This guy was fishing from the beginning, right? Today in history. In the 2014-15 season, in the first round of the English League Cup, Milton Keynes defeated New Wimbledon 3-1. Milton's opponent in the second round is Manchester United. Please feel free to cast a few recommendation votes, thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 18 Player Stories. Today's training ends here, let's disband. Assistant coach Cox blew the final whistle, more than 20 players clapped their hands and evacuated from the training ground one after another. Boluo exhaled, dragged his slightly tired body, and walked towards the locker room. A strong arm suddenly wrapped around his neck, caught off guard, this sudden force almost crushed him. Damn it, don't post it suddenly, it will kill you. Boluo didn't even have to turn his head to know that the owner of this arm must be that damned Akinfenwa. It's not that he brags, the entire team can exert such pressure on himself, and only this bear weighing more than 200 caddies. Akinfenwa laughed loudly. Little guy, walking with weights builds your core strength. Don't you want to get stronger? Boluo sneered. I'm here to play football, not to wrestle, man. Akinfenwa smiled and shook his head. Little guy, who told you that football players don't need upper body strength? Like Wayne Rooney, he's an amateur boxer. Rooney? This name is not unfamiliar at all, but the current captain of Manchester United. Boluo was stunned for a moment. You're right, I need to increase my resistance. Seeing his good manners, Akinfenwa was very pleased. Then go to the gym with me, I can provide you with professional guidance, of course, this time for free. Boluo couldn't help but rolled his eyes. Go. I see, you just can't find someone to talk to you, right? As a young player, I was bullied by the old guy again. Like the club specifications, New Wimbledon's gym is quite simple, without any high-tech products, basically mechanical aids. Akinfenwa whistled, picked up a pair of dumbbells from the rack, and swung them lightly. Boluo glanced at the 30 kilograms on the dumbbell, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. This pair of dumbbells is 120 caddies, which is almost the weight of an adult, but in the hands of Akinfenwa, swinging it is as easy as a branch. Not to mention that we have been training for nearly 6 hours today, everyone's physical fitness it's almost used up already. Looking at his arms that are thicker than his own thighs, Boluo has no doubts at all. If this strong man is willing, he can easily strangle himself to death with his arms. Boluo didn't dare to compete with Akinfenwa. He picked two 20 kilograms dumbbells and practiced at his own pace. A few minutes later, Akinfenwa dropped the dumbbell and lay down under the barbell not far away without changing his tone. The warm-up is over, let me show you my true strength. Looking at his posture, Boluo couldn't help but rolled his eyes. Okay, you have said many times that your bench press can reach 200 kilograms, average male 50 to 60 kilograms, but you don't have to demonstrate it to me at this time. We can't do some recovery first sexual training? The combination of work and rest is also very important. Akinfenwa ignored him at all, and started training on his own, still muttering. Do you want to rest? Your kid is obviously young, and you rested all day yesterday. Is this not enough? Boluo put down his dumbbells and stretched his arms. Come on, we just trained all day and we're not tired at all, isn't it normal? Akinfenwa vigorously lifted the barbell in the air, his arms were almost motionless. Ha, I thought you, like me, would be full of energy when you heard that you were going to play against a strong team like Manchester United. Boluo found a bench and sat down. The news is really exciting, but so what? I'm not a kid anymore, I don't dream that I can be selected by Manchester United in one game and fly to the sky. Akinfenwa glanced at him, a little surprised at his calmness. I thought that a little guy of your age would be more or less passionate. Boluo shrugged his shoulders. I am self-aware. 2 weeks ago, I was an amateur player who only trained once a week. Even if I barely become a professional player now, I am far away from the level of Manchester United. Akinfenwa put down the barbell and sat up slowly. Yeah, it's too far away, but people have to have some hope, don't they? Boluo lowered his eyes slightly, and nodded non-committally. I also wish I could go to a bigger team, but I'm content now, really. A month ago, when he worked as a waiter in a supermarket, he worked 40 hours a week, but it cost only £240, plus Clapton's appearance fee of £20 per game, it was only 260 yuan. But now in New Wimbledon, the weekly basic salary has reached 300 yuan. If appearance fees, goal awards, zero seal awards, and winning awards are added, it can reach 350 yuan. A full 90 yuan more than before, soared 35%. And you can also enjoy up to 6 weeks of summer paid vacation, and you can get paid on time even if you are injured. This kind of treatment is much better than that of waiters. What's more valuable is that the club includes food and lodging, virtually saving a lot of expenses. As a low-level foreign population, what else is he dissatisfied with? Probably feeling that the atmosphere of the conversation was a little heavy, Akinfenwa laughed and changed the topic. Boy, do you want to hear my story? Boluo didn't really want to discuss the philosophy of life, so he took the opportunity of going down the slope to express his agreement. I saw the fat man coughed, and said slowly. I am a mixed race of England and Nigeria. I have been receiving football youth training since I was 5 years old, but the weight gain is too fast, which directly affects my speed. You also know that the most popular players in England these years are the types who can run and rush, so until now, no professional club has accepted me. Once, my agent contacted me to go to Watford for a trial. The result of the trial was very bad. The club wants to sign a contract with me. That club is called Atlantis. Have you heard of it? Boluo shook his head realistically. Bumblebee, Watford is only a little familiar to him. After all, it is not a mainstream team in the Premier League. It has been ups and downs between the Premier League and the British Championship for more than 10 years, and it has never been able to stay in the top league for a long time. Akinfenwa was not surprised. It's normal because it's in Lithuania, where there are only 10 clubs in the top league, 36 rounds per season, which means you have to play each opponent 4 times, and the wages there are very low, only £4 a month. That's the equivalent of $400 a week. Boluo opened his mouth. Even though it was more than 10 years ago, this number really surprised him. Akinfenwa explained with a smile. Very low, right? But I had no other choice at all. I had to support myself. More importantly, I really love football. If I really stopped playing football, I didn't know what to do. So I left the UK for the first time. At that time, Alansto was quite strong and could participate in the UEFA Cup that year. It was a bit lucky to say that the previous main striker was injured. I only trained for a few days and got the chance to play. Opportunity. But as soon as I got on the field, I heard the fans yell like a chimpanzee, and some people publicly yelled fuck that nig asterisk, so angry that I almost stopped the game on the spot and went home. Racial and religious discrimination is nothing new on the court. Boluo did not comfort him, but just listened to him in silence and continued to tell the story. But I didn't do that because I needed the job. So I played the whole season and won the domestic cup, and then I came back to England, but still no professional team wanted to sign me. I played in amateur football. After playing in the league for 3 years, I became a member of a professional team for the first time. League 2, League 1, Championship, and then League 1, League 2, until now. I am 32 years old, but I am not satisfied. I want to score 200 goals, I want to play a top league, even the Champions League. Champions League? Boluo couldn't help raising his eyebrows, a little surprised at the delusions of this middle-aged man. With Akinfenwa's level, I am afraid that he will not be able to play in the rotation in the League One relegation team, let alone play in the Champions League. Sensing his doubts, Akinfenwa didn't feel uncomfortable at all, just laughed. Although I am also a new addition to this team, I have perfectly inherited the tradition of the crazy gang. He stood up and patted Boluo on the shoulder. Let's start practicing more, we've talked too much. End of this chapter. Chapter 19. The strongest rival in history. Boluo, who was sweating in the gym, finally returned to the player's apartment. With the economic strength of New Wimbledon, it is definitely impossible to arrange an independent villa for him. When he opened the door, 3 roommates were playing games in the living room. Striker Adebayo Aziz in 94, midfielder Jack Reeves in 93, goalkeeper George McDonnell in 94, plus defender. Each position is not repeated. Why did you come back? Reeves whistled and joked. If it's a date, it's too early to come back. Aziz and McDonnell were fighting so hard that they didn't even have time to look at him. Boluo looked at the screen. A dozen villains were fiercely vying for a ball, and he couldn't help laughing. After training for a whole day, your relaxation method is still football. Reeves shrugged. Oh no, we just played a fighting game for half an hour, and finally thought football was interesting. Boluo was a little speechless about the enthusiasm of these young teammates, so he had to sit down and act as a spectator. They are playing FIFA 14, and both sides are London teams. Aziz supports Arsenal, the Arsenal, and McDonald is a fan of the Blues, Chelsea. Arsenal in the 2013-14 season is already in decline. The only players who can be called top players in the squad are the Ergo who has just joined from Real Madrid. Ernie, Arteta, Chamberlain and others can't really support the Giants' cards. However, after Sanchez joined, Wenger barely extended his life for a few more seasons. Chelsea, on the other hand, is completely different. Mourinho, the magic bird, has reigned for the second time, bringing back the temperament of iron and champion to the Blues. Their lineup is also far better than their rivals in the same city. Hatter, Ivanovic, David Luiz, Petr Cech, Mata, Oscar, Cahill, Azpilicueta, Cole, each is a famous figure. Even their bench puts Arsenal to shame: Torres, Eschen, Mikel, Willian, Schürrle, Dembaba, Sulla, De Bruyne, Lukaku. With Hazard's powerful shot from the left piercing Szczesny's fingers, Aziz dropped the handle in frustration. The difference in strength between the players on both sides is too great. How can we fight? McDonald pointed to the 4-0 on the screen and laughed. It's purely because you're so rude. Reeves raised his chin to Boluo. Let's have a game too. Boluo did not reject this kind of interaction between teammates and took over a handle. Is there Wimbledon? Reeves was a little surprised. Yes, but, are you sure? Boluo shrugged noncommittally. Have fun, you can choose Manchester United. Reeves froze for a moment, then laughed. Don't blame me for bullying you. The two quickly chose a team, and when they were arranging the formation, Boluo suddenly regretted it. The highest-rated team in the new Wimbledon squad is a trio of 62 points, centre-back Alan Bennett, midfielder George Porter and striker Jack Midson, but all three players are without exception. Has already left in the summer window. Followed by the old captain and midfielder Sammy Moore with 61 points, he has also completed the transfer and has nothing to do with Boluo. So, the strongest people have all left, leaving only Barry Fuller, Jack Smith, Mark Phillips, the old, the weak, the sick and the disabled. He glanced at the lineup opposite. Van Persie, the highest rated, was only 1 point away from reaching 90. Rooney and Vidic were both 87. Ferdinand, Nani, Kagawa Shinji, Ashley Young, Carrick, and Valencia were all there. Between 82 to 85, the lowest Raphael, Welbeck, Cleverley, Jones, Smalling and other young teenagers also have as many as 77 and 78 points. FIFA 14 is of course the initial lineup of each team in the 2013-14 season. In contrast, at least, % of Wimbledon's players at that time have already transferred and left, and even Manchester United's lineup has undergone a lot of changes. Ferdinand, Everest Pull, Vidic, Cleverley, Nani and others left the team one after another, in exchange for Fellaini, Mata, Luke Shaw, Herrera, Rojo and other powerful new aides. If you count the Netherlands champion coach Van Gaal, the overall strength may not drop but rise. Boluo bit the bullet and put out a defensive formation of 541, and ended the disparity of strength with a 0-0 battle and a score. 2-1-7931712:572. Reeves dropped the handle angrily. A man should choose to attack. Boluo rolled his eyes. Playing against Manchester United? That's not a man, that's mentally retarded. After a short rest, New Wimbledon soon ushered in intensive events. 2 days later, on August 8, the Kwanbaan went away again to challenge their opponents in the second round of the league. As champions of last season's fifth tier, the English Football Council Premier League, Luton have just undergone a transition from amateur to professional, despite the club's owners investing tens of thousands of pounds, heavy money, transfer, but their lineup is clearly not in place. Especially when the three forwards of Akinfenwa, Aziz and Dubis were attacking with all their strength, Luton could only choose to retreat and defend, but with the crazy offensive of the Mad Gang, the home team's City was still lost in the 86th minute, and they sat and watched Wimbledon take 3 points away. Then on August 8, the Kwangbang, who returned to the home court, beat Nanan United with a score of 19-2, ushering in a 3-game winning streak in the new season, ranking second in the standings with the disadvantage of slightly fewer goals. Boluo, who has played 2 games, has performed quite well. Although he failed to score goals and assists, he can be ranked in the middle of the team after the game. The right flank he guards has also made the coaching team more and more reassured. These 2 games are both strong and weak confrontations. New Wimbledon can form a siege most of the time, leaving not too many opportunities for the back line to perform. Boluo has only gained 21 points of negative emotions, and he has not yet fought with the team. Milton Keynes had a big halftime gain. The 4-game winning streak in all competitions has made the atmosphere of the new Wimbledon team unprecedentedly united, and the morale of the players is also very high. Head coach Otter knows that he needs to fulfill his original promise. During the training session on August 8, he announced to everyone. In the 4th round of the league, we take a rotation. Rotate, let the main team rest, and then face the strong opponents of the League Cup, Manchester United in the best condition. No one was surprised, but everyone was inexplicably excited. Of course, they are terrified of Manchester United's reputation, and even have some faint fear, but this does not affect their eagerness to defeat the Red Devils. Akinfenwa, Dubas, Franken, Rigg, Goodman, Shea and other main players were all excluded from the starting list, and even the substitute list did not enter. It seems that Adley's already iron mind will focus on the League Cup. Boluo is no exception. From August 8 to 9, he played 4 consecutive games in 10 days. His physical fitness was on the verge of the limit. Fortunately, the previous 2 wounded Barry Fuller and Jack Smith got out of the hospital bed in time. Comeback, just to find the feeling in the less intense league. Perhaps it was the outstanding performance of the young people that stimulated the 2 old captains. Smith and Fuller flew all over the field in the game, and also benefited from their positive performance. A 2-1 win over Hartley in the away game allowed the team's good start to continue. It's getting closer and closer to August 8. Since the establishment of New Wimbledon in 2002, the strongest opponent it has encountered is coming. End of this chapter. Chapter 20. I don't know anything about them. 201482618845. 2:45 a.m. domestically. Jean June, the head commentator of Sina Sports, started his own work. Welcome everyone to watch the 2nd round of the English League Cup, Manchester United's away game against New Wimbledon. There are still 15 minutes before the start of the game. Let's take a look at the situation of the 2 teams. A group of blue players appeared on the big screen behind him. The home team is New Wimbledon from the 4th tier. This League 2 team was established in 2002. It is undoubtedly a new army in the entire English football world, but their background is not small at all. They inherited what is the oldest team in English football. The Crazy Gang, Wimbledon, established in 1889, is a team that is completely established by fans and supporters, and always adheres to tradition and glory. Deserves all the respect. Jean June looked at the information he had prepared in advance. The New Wimbledon suffered some injuries in the new season, but they still achieved 4 consecutive victories in the league. In the last round of the League Cup, they faced the strong Milton Keynes. The opponents in the 2nd round are even more terrifying. He hesitated for a moment. It is worth mentioning that there is an amiable Asian face in the home team, Lee Polo, and it was his header that allowed Kwangbang to kill the enemy. Judging from the name and appearance, he is likely to be it is a pity that there is too little information about the League 2 team, and we have no way to understand this 20-year-old player in depth. The footage of the last round of the match was being played on the screen. Lee Polo leaped high in the crowd and hit the goal with a very visually impactful head shake, and sentenced Milton Keynes to death. The screen then turned to Manchester United, and Jean June could finally put down the information in his hand. The visiting team is the Red Devils Manchester United that everyone is very familiar with. In the first season after Ferguson retired, Manchester United, the defending champion, only ranked 7th in the league, and the management could only fire the poor record. The head coach Moyes and Dutch coach Van Gaal took office, but the team's situation has not been improved immediately. In the first 2 rounds of the league, there was a loss, a draw, and no wins. Obviously, it is not on the right track. However, Just this morning, Manchester United officially announced the official signing of Argentina's angel wing, Di Maria from Real Madrid. It will give Manchester United a shot in the arm. Thousands of miles away in England, the local TV station BBC also sent a reporting team composed of famous football star Gary Lineker and special guest and former Manchester United captain Gary Neville. Lineker looked at the list of both parties in his hand and threw out his own topic. In your memory, is it amazing that Manchester United are in the second round of the Carabao Cup? The League Cup is a cup competition for 4 levels of professional leagues: the Premier League, the Championship, League One, and League Two. As a top team, Manchester United was only scheduled to play in the third round in the past, but Manchester United's performance last season was really bad. In the end, they only ranked 7th, and they had no choice but to play early, which is not a good thing for Manchester United anyway. Neville nodded. Indeed, it's rare. Seeing that he didn't want to delve into this topic, Lineker immediately changed direction. Manchester United is only 1 day away from the last game, and there is almost no rest time. Judging from the 18-man roster they submitted, Rooney, Van Persie, Mata, Carrick, Ashley Young, Smalling, Jones and other main players, none of the players entered the roster, and the new Di Maria will not appear in the game. In the starting lineup, only goalkeeper De Gea is the absolute main force. It seems that Van Gaal wants to let young people practice on the 4th-tier team. Practice your skills, what do you think? Neville nodded. It is true. If the substitute players perform well, it may also be able to form some positive stimulation to the main players, thus triggering healthy competition within the team. Lineker agrees. As a Manchester United legend, or as a commentator, how much do you know about today's home team? Neville shrugged his shoulders. The Crazy Gang, everyone in football knows this name. They are tough and tough. They are feared in English leagues at all levels. In 1988, I remember it very well. I was only 13 years old at that time. This team beat an incredible Liverpool, winning the FA Cup that year. Lineker laughed. At that time, you were already a Manchester United youth player, right? Neville also smiled. Yeah, so we were all very happy to see Liverpool take the title away. Then he put away his smile again. But I know next to nothing about the new Wimbledon these days. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Lineker also took it for granted. It's normal, man. The only thing I know about this team is that they signed Adebayo Akinfenwa this season. Maybe you have a little impression of this guy? Neville put on a thoughtful look very cooperatively. Oh, that's the strongest player in England. Look at his size, it's really oppressive. Along with the chatter of the commentators, players from both sides have already lined up in the player tunnel and started to walk towards the court one after another. As a right back, Lee Polo was the third player to play after returning from injury, after vice-captain Smith and goalkeeper Shea, while Akinfenwa, a centre forward, was the last to make his debut. Before the competition, Lee Polo originally thought that he would be very excited, but when this moment really came, he seemed extraordinarily calm. Perhaps it is because he is playing at home, surrounded by almost all the voices of supporters. Maybe, just because his opponent is not as terrifying as he imagined. De Gea, Michael Keane, Evans, Vermeer, Yanko, Powell, Anderson, Reece James, Shinji Kagawa, Hernandez, Welbeck, among the 11 starters, he was the only meet 5. De Gea is another Spanish god after Casillas, so there is no need to repeat it. Brazilian midfielder Anderson is famous for the 2008 European Golden Boy Award, and has also become the most watered Golden Boy Award winner. Shinji Kagawa was once an important role in the re-emergence of Dortmund and even subverting Bayern's dominance in the Bundesliga. With his outstanding performance, he was once regarded as the #1 superstar in Asia. Little P. Hernandez is Mexico's main striker. Although he is only the third choice for Manchester United striker, he also scored 15 goals last season and his efficiency is very good. As a member of Manchester United's youth training, Black Bay, Welbeck is not only a representative of England's new generation of strikers, but also an outstanding representative of this generation of happy football. These 5 players seem to have backgrounds, but except for De Gea, the other 4 are just regulars on the bench for Manchester United. Compared with the main players Van Persie, Rooney, Carrick, Mata and Di Maria, their personal strength and there is a clear gap in the status of the team. As for Keane, Vermeer and others, they are even unknown people. Even Manchester United fans do not understand the strength of these young players at all. The two sides lined up and shook hands under the witness of the referee team to express their friendship. The broadcast camera was aimed at the 22 starting players, and suddenly captured an unharmonious picture. The player wearing the number 1 blue jersey paused for a moment in front of the number 19 red team player, and then said something quickly. Welbeck, who was originally dark-skinned, became even more gloomy now. The yellow-skinned monkey who just walked past him actually challenged him. In this game, you don't want to score. Good boy, do you want to stop the goal of the British Emperor star? Who do you think you are stepping on? Negative sentiment from Daniel Welbeck, +5. End of this chapter. Chapter 21. Hurry up and find a seat. 3 defenders. When the players from both sides lined up on the field, the commentators immediately expressed their surprise. Lineker was the first to speak. Van Gaal not only wants to train young players, but also practice 3-back tactics. As a Manchester United star who has just retired a few days ago, Neville was also very surprised. The Manchester United I am familiar with has always insisted on the traditional 4-4-2 style of play. Even if there are occasional changes, there are rarely 3 defenders. Van Gaal. Is this going to initiate a big tactical change in Manchester United? Lineker muttered in a low voice. Would this be too risky? Neville glanced at him. Although he didn't directly object, the expression on his face clearly implied dissatisfaction. Just a League Cup, what adventure. This is a half-time offensive and defensive drill for the Premier League giants against the 4th-tier teams. Even if Manchester United only sends 7 people, it can crush Wimbledon with 11 people. Drip. A whistle ignited the atmosphere on the King's grass court, and also announced the official start of this game of great disparity. Akinfenwa kicked off the ball and passed back. The centre-back Phillips took possession of the ball and passed it diagonally to the right. The football came to Lipolo's feet. Manchester United's formation is 352, or more detailed, it can be described as 34-12, 3 central defenders, 4 midfielders, 1 midfielder, and 2 forwards. In this formation, the positions of the 2 forwards are relatively close to the centre. Naturally, there was no dedicated winger to form a direct pressure on Boluo. That being the case, Boluo has plenty of time to move forward with the ball and participate in the attack properly. Seeing that he chose to go forward, Welbeck, who had 2 forwards on the left, hesitated for a moment, and instead of stepping up to press immediately, he watched him dribble the ball across the center line. At this moment, Shinji Kagawa was far in the middle, and the 4 midfielders retreated habitually. There was no defensive player within 20 meters of Boluo. No matter how amateurish his dribbling skills were, it was enough push with ease. When Boluo entered the 25-meter area of Manchester United, the Manchester United players finally reacted. The nearest midfielder, Nick Powell, gave up the retreat and rushed over aggressively. But as soon as he started to speed up, he saw that the opponent sent the ball behind him, so he had to brake to slow down and change direction to return to defense. But he also failed this time. Powell had just completed his turn when he saw the home team's midfielder George Franken sweep the ball to the front right. The simplest 2-over-1. Negative sentiment from Powell, +1. Boluo received the ball again, he was infinitely close to the edge of the penalty area. Nick Vermeer, the most peripheral of Manchester United's 3 central defenders, did not dare to neglect, rushed out of the penalty area in time, and got stuck on the inside cut route. But the defender didn't know that the opponent he was about to face had mediocre talent in dribbling breakthroughs. The fact is exactly the same, Boluo didn't mean to challenge him one-on-one at all, and he didn't change the movement to cut inward. He just swung his right foot after a little acceleration and scored a cross. Although the fullback is not the position he is most used to, Boluo is no stranger to the basic routine of crossing from the bottom. After rubbing the ball to the center, the rest depends on the luck of the 2 forwards. Akinfenwa and Dubis, who had already entered the penalty area, were observing the flight trajectory of the ball, but it was Manchester United captain Jonathan Evans who took the first action. The central defender from Northern Ireland leaped high ahead of Dubis, trying to push the ball out of the danger zone, but perhaps due to lack of preparation, his takeoff was still a little slow, and the ball changed slightly when it rubbed against his hair. The flight trajectory, but still flew towards the most dangerous area. Goalkeeper De Gea's heart sank. If Evans didn't have this touch, the ball would still be within his control, but he couldn't die. The ball had such a refraction on Evans' head, and the landing point shifted outward. 2 or 3 meters away. It was the distance of 2 or 3 meters that put De Gea in a dilemma. The ball just landed at the feet of Akinfenwa near the penalty spot. Among the 3 central defenders of Manchester United, Vermeer is still in front of Boluo, Evans is still flying in the air, and only Michael Keane is left, but he is restrained by Dubas, and the unguarded Akinfenwa easily draws. Even though De Gea reacted quickly, he could only watch the ball whizzing past his fingers. 1 o'clock. In the 27th second of the game, New Wimbledon opened the scoring. The stadium with less than 5,000 people instantly boiled. Many fans hadn't even found their seats when their team took the lead. Roar. The hero of the goal, Akinfenwa, raised his head to the sky and howled excitedly, and smashed his fists hard on his chest. Coupled with the trembling tendons all over his body, he looked like a King Kong. This is a goal against Manchester United. And it's the top goalkeeper De Gea. How could he be indifferent? It's an unexpected start. The Red Devils, who were a guest in London, were hit in the head. Within half a minute of the opening, the city guarded by De Gea was declared lost. Jean June, who was still introducing the starting lineups of the two sides, was a little surprised, but he quickly stabilized his emotions and did not laugh out loud. Conceding the ball prematurely will definitely inspire Manchester United's fighting spirit. In the next game, Wimbledon may not play too comfortably. This sentiment was echoed by his British counterpart, with Neville saying, "It may be a good thing to concede a goal at the beginning. We still have a full 90 minutes to tie and reverse the game." Lineker praised the performance of the home team. Wimbledon's attack was very determined. It took only 3 passes to tear up the Manchester United defense. It seems that they do have some ideas about this game. Neville said sullenly. Wimbledon is best to shrink immediately, because what will greet them is the offensive frenzy from Manchester United. What the old captain of the Red Devils said was right at all. After the celebration of the home team players ended, Manchester United immediately launched an attack. In all fairness, in Manchester United's midfield, Welbeck's sharp speed, Hernandez's flexible movement, and Kagawa Shinji's delicate organizational ability, just relying on this offensive trident, is enough to cause huge troubles for Wimbledon's defense. According to the characteristics of Manchester United, Otter also made special arrangements. High pressing, close pressing. Among the 3, the core of the offense is undoubtedly the former king of Dortmund. Therefore, when Shinji Kagawa holds the ball, the 4 midfielders of Rigg, Franken, Bormann, and Reeves will start from the first place. The encirclement was formed in multiple directions, completely cutting off the line for him to transport the shells forward. Unknown Kagawa wanted to go it alone, but was immediately stopped by the left back and vice-captain Smith with a vicious tackle, and Manchester United's first attack came to an abrupt end. Smith, who had finally returned to the court, was full of blood and blue at the moment. After stealing the ball, he took advantage of the situation and took a big kick, trying to launch a quick counterattack. Unfortunately, the long pass was far and floating, and it flew directly out of the sideline. Jean June shook his head again and again. After all, he is only a player at the level of League Two. Although the defense is very fierce, the basic skills of passing and receiving the ball are indeed relatively average. A rare counterattack opportunity was wasted in vain. Smith's old face turned black, and he raised his hands to apologize to his teammates. Performance is abnormal, be sure to pay attention next time. Fortunately, the score is leading, everyone is more tolerant, and no one will care about this ordinary mistake. After all, as a 4th-level team, passing errors are already commonplace. Manchester United threw a throw-in and quickly formed a second round of offensive. After they pulled back and forth in the midfield a few times, Kagawa swayed the defense with his excellent dribbling skills and sent a kick forward to the ground. Welbeck slapped the horse and walked away, and successfully reversed offside from the gap between Polo and Phillips, forming a single-handedly in an instant. It's a pity that Bay didn't fully adjust his footsteps when he caught the ball, and he shot a powerful shot against the door frame and flew towards the stands, making goalkeeper Cie startled into a cold sweat. Look at this attack, the strength of the Manchester United players is undoubtedly revealed. Neville is full of energy and spring breeze. Although Wimbledon's defense is very tight, the difference in strength between the two sides is too large. As time goes by, it is absolutely impossible for them to maintain a high position and press. Once the physical fitness is in trouble, they will be defeated by Manchester United in minutes. Before he finished speaking, Cia took the goal kick. As a goalkeeper who was once selected for the England national team squad, Shea's long pass level is completely beyond Smith's level. He accurately found Akinfenwa. Franken, the left midfielder, almost repeatedly Boluo's previous tactics. He dribbled the ball forward 15 meters and made a decisive cross, and Dubas header bombed in front of the goal. It's a pity that they were a little less lucky. This time, De Gea reacted quickly and held the ball out of the baseline with a single palm at the last moment, avoiding the embarrassing start of the team conceding 2 goals in a row within 5 minutes. New Wimbledon got the first corner kick. End of this chapter. Chapter 22. No reversal, not the Red Devil. Relax, it's no big deal. On the coaching bench of the visiting team, Manchester United coach Louis van Gaal put his hands in his pockets and crossed his legs, looking calm and unhurried. The assistant coach beside him, Ryan Giggs, had no choice but to resist the urge to get up and command, and stayed in his seat to watch the game. While the two sides were preparing for a corner kick, Giggs looked through the player profiles of both sides. New Wimbledon central midfielders are generally mediocre in height. Most of them are under 1.8 meters, and only 2 central defenders reach 1.8 meters. Among Manchester United's starting 11 players, only Kagawa and Hernandez are under 1.8 meters. The height advantage is simply not too obvious. Giggs glanced at Van Gaal and nodded thoughtfully. Such a simple question, why didn't I consider it? I am still too inexperienced. Van Gaal is worthy of being a world-famous coach. There is nothing to worry about. And then they saw the new Wimbledon player take the corner, the ball spun up, around a half-dozen players crammed at the near post, and went down at the far post. A blue figure leaped high ahead of the Manchester United players, and as if it had been accurately calculated, faced the falling ball and gently hit the goal. Then Van Gaal and Giggs saw De Gea struggling to move, but helpless. Negative sentiment from David De Gea, +2. 2 o'clock. Giggs almost jumped up from his seat, looking in astonishment at the home team players who were celebrating wildly. Van Gaal was still much calmer than him, but he didn't know when he put away his raised Erlang legs. Ryan Giggs, +2. Louis van Gaal, +3. Beautiful header. Manchester United suffered continuous blows. Lineker raised his voice 3 degrees. Only 7 minutes into the game, Manchester United was scored twice by the opponent. Looking at the replay on the screen, Neville shook his head again and again. The focus of Manchester United's defense is all on the 2 tall central defenders, and almost everyone has not noticed the inconspicuous fullback. The inconspicuous fullback was trotting all the way to the corner flag area at the moment, and jumped directly on Rig, the hero of the assist. Dude, it's so beautifully passed. Rig hugged him vigorously, laughed loudly, and boasted. I'm the Beckham of Wimbledon, isn't this kind of pass simple? Compared with the players on the field, the coaches on the sidelines seemed less excited. Adley grabbed Cox's arm. Brother, hurry up and help me, I feel a little dizzy. Cox is also a bit flabbergasted. I can't stand. With the support of the team doctor, the two barely sat back on their seats. Adele forced himself to calm down, but his radiant eyes betrayed his mood. Tell the boys, we will defend and fight back. He glanced at his assistant. Go. Cox curled his lips and put his hands on his knees. My legs are weak, I can't get up. Manchester United's corner kick defense was so amateurish. Jean June, who was thousands of miles away, criticized unceremoniously. As long as they carefully review the opponent's previous games, they will never miss this point of Lee Polo. The reason why New Wimbledon was able to appear in the second round of the League Cup was because Lee Polo scored a header at the last moment to kill Milton Keynes. He was right to criticize, but as a commentator, he still moved towards a neutral position. After all, most of the people watching the game at this time were Manchester United fans. Missing 2 goals in 7 minutes, Manchester United should be fully awake now. Although they are in a rotation lineup, as long as they stop underestimating the enemy and go all out, the gap between the two goals is not irreversible. United were quick to seek change, as pundits expected. Assistant coach Giggs immediately turned on the hair-dryer mode and shouted from the sidelines. "Cheer up. Attack, attack. Give me the fuck." After all, the new season has just started, and every player is looking forward to showing their best performance in front of the new coach. After a short period of frustration, they began to attack with all their strength. 2 goals behind is not terrible at all, Manchester United fans know a word. No reversal, not the Red Devils. Fans of Bayern Munich and Juventus know this very well. Fans in the British Isles are also very clear that Manchester United has its own reversal attributes. The game has just begun, and Manchester United still has a lot of time to complete the reversal. In the face of Manchester United's fierce offensive, the players in New Wimbledon completed the change without the coach's advice. The 4 defenders retreated as a whole, the 4 midfielders formed a second barrier at the front of the penalty area, and the 2 forwards became guerrilla knights, harassing and forcing Manchester United's midfield at any time, so that their ball holders would not be too comfortable. But despite this, in the face of the speed impact of Welbeck and Hernandez, combined with Kagawa Shinji's interspersed movement, the League Two team still felt tremendous pressure. In the 13th minute, Shinji Kagawa sent a sharp through ball. Welbeck threw off Phillips to form a single shot. Facing CIA, who abandoned the goal and blocked the goal, Heibe volleyed into the stands, wasting his first goal of the game. 2 great opportunities. Van Gaal finally looked better. Giggs also nodded. "That's right, even if it's a substitute lineup, our strength is completely above them." The home team gasped. Cox frowned. Welbeck's speed is indeed too fast, it is very difficult for Mark to guard against him. Adre sees further than his assistant. The through ball from Japan's attacking midfielder is the key. If he can't limit his performance, such dangerous situations will appear again and again. Cox nodded. "I will ask the midfielder to take extra care of him." He gritted his teeth and said, "Take care," with extra force. Within a few minutes, Shinji Kagawa felt the enthusiasm from the players of the home team. He had just received a through pass from the backcourt with his back. Before he could turn around, he was kicked on the ankle by Borman and immediately lost the ball. Referee. Kagawa limped and looked around, trying to appeal to the referee, but the referee took 3 steps back without any response, not giving him a chance to speak. Giggs on the sidelines was not happy, and he complained when he found the 4th official, but unfortunately the latter was also indifferent. It was just a normal foul. Manchester United won a free kick in the frontcourt, but the free kick was more than 30 meters away from the goal, and there was no possibility of a direct shot at all. Wimbledon only had 2 forwards, Akinfenwa and Dubis, symbolically lined up. Walls, and even the opponent's line of sight are difficult to block. Nicholas Powell didn't think too much, and directly sent a pick to the penalty area, but he obviously underestimated the strength of the home team's goalkeeper. CIA jumped high before a group of defenders and hugged the ball firmly. Counterattack. After landing, CIA threw the ball forward without any hesitation, and accurately found the 2 forwards who acted as a human wall. Akinfenwa perfectly suppressed Evans, who wanted to fight, and threw the ball to his striker partner Dubis. Into Manchester United's half. The atmosphere of the stadium was suddenly pushed to a climax. Manchester United's defense failed to stop Dubis in the first place, and the 3 defenders could only pursue wildly while pinning their hopes on the final goalkeeper. De Gea deserves to be the second most expensive goalkeeper in football. Watching Dubis cross the center circle alone, he did not leave his field easily, but stayed calmly in the small penalty area. The most important thing to deal with a one-handed ball is the momentum. After Dubis ran for nearly 50 meters, it was difficult to maintain the initial rhythm, but he couldn't adjust his pace under the situation of the defender chasing wildly, so he could only kick in a hurry. The 24-year-old De Gea was at his peak. Known for his reaction and sense of position, he made the most precise save, holding the football firmly in his arms, and did not give Dubis any chance. "Hey!" Adele waved his hand regretfully, and the dream of a 3-goal lead was shattered. "There is no way, this counterattack is too fast, only 2 strikers are at the top of Wimbledon, and with Akinfenwa's speed, it is impossible to form effective support for Dubis. Dubis can only choose to go it alone." Dubis, whose legs were weak, shook his head, watching De Gea's big feet moving forward, he could only take a deep breath. The ball crossed more than half of the pitch and found the core of Manchester United's offense in this game. Shinji Kagawa. While looking up at the flight path of the ball, Kagawa retreated with his back to the home team's goal. When he was about to reach the landing point, he felt that he had hit a wall. Boluo, guarding the right flank, arrived at the landing point one step earlier than him. Looking at the pass that was about to fly overhead, Kagawa could only lean on his opponent and forcefully take off. But, the moment he was about to leave the ground and fly into the air, Boluo took a step back. Losing support, Kagawa Shinji failed to reach the height he wanted, but fell heavily to the ground. De Gea's long ball failed to pose any threat, and instead flew straight out of the touchline, giving Wimbledon's players a chance to breathe. Adre clearly saw the action just now, and couldn't help but give a thumbs up. This little guy is defending with his brain. Cox was about to agree, but saw Kagawa lying on the ground slowly raised his right hand. The core of Manchester United twisted his ankle when he landed, and he couldn't hold on. End of this chapter. Chapter 23. Are you the successor of Ronaldo? Manchester United request a substitution. Kagawa closed his eyes in pain. The pain in his ankle was not enough to break him, but his will was close to collapse at this moment. In the summer 2 years ago, with his outstanding performance in Dortmund, he came to Old Trafford with a transfer fee of $1,700 million, becoming the first Japanese player to join a supergiant, and also a well-deserved superstar in Asia. In his first show and first goal, he had a smooth start in Manchester United. Even after 2 months of injuries, he still showed a brilliant performance and became the first Asian player to perform a hat-trick in the Premier League. And followed Manchester United to win the Premier League championship that season with 29 goals in 6 games. But with Ferguson retiring, Kagawa suddenly lost his position at Manchester United. The newly appointed Moyes couldn't find his instruction manual at all. Kagawa in the second season can only be regarded as a regular rotation. Not a single goal was scored. Now is the third season, and Kagawa did not get a 1-minute chance to play in the first 2 rounds of the league. Obviously he is not in Van Gaal's plan. This League Cup was originally a battle for his name, and he was also one of the most active players on the field, but luckily, he had to leave the field due to injury after only 20 minutes of the game. Mata is here, Di Maria is here, and Van Gaal still needs to reuse youth players like Lingard and Januzaj. The 25-year-old Shinji Kagawa has no future here. This is too insidious. That number 1 was completely intentional. On the Manchester United side, Giggs jumped out again. Van Gaal's face turned pale slightly. Of course he did it on purpose, but it wasn't even a foul. Compared with the angry Giggs, the old coach still sat calmly on the seat, and after a little thought, he made a substitution adjustment. Let Januzaj play. Today, there are no famous superstars such as Rooney, Van Persie, and Mata on the bench of Manchester United. Even Ashley Young, Valencia, Fellaini and others did not go out with the team. The strongest attacker that Van Gaal can use is undoubtedly Januzaj. Sure enough, as soon as Januzaj started to warm up, the coach of the home team was not happy. Cox frowned. This kid is not easy to deal with. This time Adre didn't refute it, because it was the truth. Januzaj, who was born in '95, is the most outstanding youth training result of Manchester United this year. From Ferguson, to Moyes, to Van Gaal, all 3 coaches have attached great importance to him without exception. He played last season 34 times, sitting firmly in the regular main position. After Giggs retired, he even inherited the 11 jersey, which symbolizes the absolute main force, and the succession trend should not be obvious anymore. As a wide player, Januzaj can be promoted to various positions in the frontcourt. He has sharp speed, exquisite technique, excellent passing and shooting, and is good at dribbling breakthroughs. Known as Belgian Beckham, Moyes even praised him as Little Cruyff. He was once regarded by Manchester United fans as Ronaldo's successor, just like another rising star in football. But professional football has always been the cruelest arena. Januzaj, who became famous prematurely, has long been broken and analyzed by his opponents. His weaknesses are as clear as his strengths. He has excellent ball sense, proficient skills, and is good at dribbling breakthroughs, but he is far from reaching the level of the peak Ronaldo and Giggs. Instead, he often falls into the dilemma of rushing and fighting alone, so that he misses the best pass opportunity. He is young and energetic, full of self-confidence, so he often shoots wildly, and his ability to withstand pressure is very average. He is very smart in playing football, but his body is thin, lacks resistance to hardness, and is even a little afraid of physical collisions. Such Jia Baoyu is now standing in front of Li Boluo. Then he heard the opponent speak up. I advise you to change your position, otherwise I can't guarantee that you can finish this game in good health. Januzaj's eyes widened, and he couldn't believe his ears. Are all the players in League 2 so arrogant? Li Boluo laughed even more arrogantly. Yes, if you dare to show off those skills in front of me, I will let you go home and find your mother to breastfeed. Negative sentiment from Adnan Januzaj, +2. Januzaj immediately became furious, and the young man's determination to win was blazing in an instant. You wait for me. Li Boluo hooked his hand. Welcome to experience life. Januzaj retreated to the midfield angrily, and the spectator Hernandez comforted. That's his psychological tactic, don't be provoked by him. I know. Although Januzaj said yes, everyone could tell that he wished he could dribble the ball to the opposite side immediately. Lineker commented as play resumed. After Januzaj played, the pressure on Wimbledon's defense may be even greater. Neville is also very concerned about the Red Devils' youth training results. His dribbling ability is very good among the younger generation. If he adds a little overall view and shooting skills, he does have the potential to become the next Ronaldo. But Neville knows better than anyone that after so many years at Manchester United, there has only been a Ronaldo. Moreover, Januzaj is more suitable for activities in the middle than being a side killer, but no matter which coach, he likes to let him pull the side to break through. Maybe, these coaches know that he is still too young to be competent at all. The role of the team brain. Januzaj didn't have to wait too long. In the 26th minute, Manchester United's offensive resumed. Anderson made a diagonal pass. After receiving the ball, he got a chance to face Li Boluo. As a left midfielder, he can of course single out Li Boluo, a right defender. In his eyes, the fourth-level League 2 is no different from the amateur team in the community downstairs. He even took a special look at Li Boluo, who was not far away, and sent a signal to attack. Pull yourself together and see clearly. He wants to let the other party understand what is called realm crushing and what is called real despair in the dignified duel. Januzaj charges with the ball. His start-up speed is not perfect, but he is already a bully against a semi-amateur player with confidence. But the result of the forced breakthrough this time disappointed him greatly. The number 1 player on the opposite side just stretched out his right foot and easily poked the ball off his feet, knocking him staggering by the way. Li Boluo shrugged, kicked the ball far away, and did not forget to taunt. Football is not a track and field game, do you need me to teach you? In this defense, I didn't even open the plug-in. Januzaj's negative emotions, +4. Januzaj, who had lost his center of gravity, rolled on the turf, half kneeling and stood up, the anger in his eyes even more intense. Great. Can't just rely on speed to form a crush. This is nothing, then add the technology of human ball integration. Just 3 minutes later, Januzaj made a comeback. He suddenly used his left foot to change direction while dribbling the ball at high speed, trying to knock down the defender and form an inside cut, but the right back on the opposite side seemed to be a prophet. At the moment he just knocked the ball, he directly completed it with a sliding tackle steal the ball. Not only that, Li Boluo repeated his old tricks, using the power of the sliding shovel to bring Januzaj, who lost his balance, to the ground. Manchester United's number 11, whose direction was disrupted, fell to the ground unprepared. Giggs couldn't help but jumped up and rushed to the fourth official at the first time. Penalty. Penalty. The fourth official couldn't help but glared at him. We saw very clearly that the opponent's tackle was very clean. Giggs almost yelled. Clean, you paralyzed. Fortunately, Januzaj got up quickly. Although he was a little limping, it did not affect the continuation of the game. Then he heard the voice he didn't want to hear for the first time. Yo, you're much stronger than the last guy. Looks like I'll have a good time. Januzaj raised his brows upside down, and a killing intent suddenly appeared on his handsome face. Play with your paralysis. Januzaj's negative emotions, +5. End of this chapter. Chapter 24 You are too strong. Although Polo tried his best to be provocative, his body and nerves were in a state of high tension. He used Hawkeye in the defense just now. In the next 8 minutes, he had no other support and could only rely on the most basic instinct to defend. Januzić's 2 failed breakthroughs did not affect Manchester United's overall tactics. After all, as long as such a breakthrough succeeds once, it can create a real killing intent. The Red Devils fans didn't have to wait too long. In the 35th minute, Anderson dribbled the ball forward in the middle. The Brazilian midfielder used a chic Marseille maneuver to shake away Bourman, who was coming to press, and then sent the ball to the number 11 teammate. As a player of the Samba Kingdom, Anderson certainly likes the technical Januzić more than Hebe and Little P. There is nothing wrong with passing the ball to him. After all, Januzić has the strongest individual combat ability in the game. Januzić took a deep breath. The failure of the previous 2 breakthroughs obviously had some impact on his mentality, but he still chose to face his opponent head-on. Januzić singled out Polo for the 3rd time. Jean June looked at the live broadcast with some surprise. Will he succeed this time? He succeeded. This time, Januzić did not make an emergency stop and change direction, but took continuous dribbling in changing direction. The ball seemed to be glued to his left foot, as he moved and dodged in a small space. His golden left foot seems to be omnipotent at this moment. This way of surpassing people seems to be done in one go, which is extremely pleasing to the eye. Messi, Neymar, and Hazard are all outstanding representatives. It is the first time that Polo, an amateur player, has encountered a technique beyond his understanding. Shaking his center of gravity, when he wanted to foul, Manchester United number 11 had already kicked and shot. The only downside to this approach is that it's a bit of a waste of time. When Januzić swayed Polo, the experienced centre-back Phillips was just in place, and his shot failed to turn into a goal in the end. Januzić's negative emotions, +5. Boluo wiped the sweat from his brow, and crawled up with lingering fear. Then he gave Januzić another inexplicable look. This young man has passed me over and over again, why is there still negative emotion? Of course the slightly panting Januzić had reason to be angry. He may not have the opportunity to perform the extraordinary performance just now a few times in a season. It could have become his own classic scene, but, even if the extraordinary performance without scoring is wonderful, who will remember it? Januzić Messi possessed, Manchester United defeated the amateur team. Wouldn't such a result be more humiliating to him? It's a pity that such a wonderful performance failed to be converted into a goal in the end. Lineker said with a little regret. After Januzić came on the field, he singled out Wimbledon's right-backs in succession, and in fact received good results. If he can maintain the level just now, Wimbledon's defense may soon be unable to support it. Neville said nothing. Can the extraordinary technique just now come as soon as he wants it? If it was so easy, Januzić would have beaten Ronaldo and Messi and caught up with Maradona and Pelé. The game was still going on, and Januzić had many chances to hold the ball, but as the Wimbledon defense became tighter and tighter, it was difficult for him to get the one-on-one chance with Polo before. Once you get the ball, you will be caught in the double team of 2 or 3 people, and you cannot quickly distribute the ball to other teammates. When the time passed by the 42nd minute, Polo quietly exhaled. The 10-minute CD is finally over. I feel like I can do it again now. He straightened his back and waved his hand towards Franken, the right midfielder in front. George, don't worry about me, let him come here alone. Franken had a look of astonishment on his face. You sure? If it wasn't for his retreat to help just now, Polo would have been blown away by Januzić. Polo gave him a thumbs up confidently. Just wait in front for a counterattack. Negative emotions from Januzić, +5. Januzić's lungs are about to explode. Everyone speaks English, you are so aboveboard, do you really not treat me, Jia Baoyu, and the Prince of Manchester United as human beings? You don't regret it. Januzić fired back in English with a distinctly Belgian accent. I hope that after 10 seconds, you can still be so confident. He stretched out his hand behind him. Ball here. Nicholas Powell also heard their situational conversation. Although he was a little upset, he passed the ball obediently. No way, Januzić has always been the star of hope for Manchester United. He is a favorite of thousands of people. He can play more than, times in a season. Powell is one of the few who can even enter the squad. How could a marginal figure be compared to him? Januzaj made another breakthrough with the ball. Did he choose Lee Polo as the target? Neville in the live broadcast room was refreshed. This time Wimbledon's midfield failed to form support in time, and Januzaj must seize this opportunity. Januzaj took a deep breath, flicked the ball forward with his left foot, and made the final preparation for the breakthrough. In just this breath of time, an extraordinary plan has already been formed in his mind. He stepped on the ball with his left foot, and shook his finger at Lee Polo, who was 2 meters away. This time, I can kill you with just one move. Lee Polo grinned. Me too. Such a scene made countless people stunned. Jean Jun, who was thousands of miles away, couldn't help complaining. Did they treat this game as a wild field? There is still time to provoke each other. Januzaj still moves the ball forward with his left foot, and every step will not exceed half a meter, so that the ball and his left foot will always maintain the closest connection. At this distance, Lee Polo didn't go up blindly, but just defended Januzaj's inward line, allowing him to dribble the ball along the sideline to the bottom line. As long as the opponent doesn't cut inside, even if he can make a cross in the end, the danger will be much less. Januzaj never thought about crossing. He is not Beckham. Isn't it good to dribble the ball and shoot? Why do you want to make a wedding dress for someone else? Less than 5 meters away from the bottom line, his left foot suddenly shook, and the ball that was rolling forward suddenly changed direction by 90 degrees. Horizontal incision. Just as Jean Jun blurted out his explanation, he saw Lee Polo take half a step towards the ball. A smile played on Januzaj's lips. Your reflexes are fast, but mine is faster. In my script, Lao Tzu is #1 in the world. With a jerk of his left foot, the ball seemed to be pulled by an invisible rubber band, and bounced back toward the baseline at an impossible angle. Ox tail. This is Ronaldinho's stunt. Jean Jun was dumbfounded, and there were countless fans and spectators who were as shocked as him. Full of confidence, Januzaj kicked his feet hard on the turf, and his whole body was like an arrow off the string, chasing out to the bottom line. Surprise, Wimbledon. He never wanted to change to cut in, but to do the opposite, enter the penalty area along the bottom line, and completely blow up their defense in the area closest to the goal. Good job. He heard 2 simple words before he saw a football boot appear in his field of vision. This sneaker is the most common street shoe at first glance, and it is completely different from the hook on my feet, which is dedicated to venomous bee, but it is such a street shoe, but it snatched the ball before Januzaj. The ball was clearly close at hand, but it finally got out of his control. His script shattered in an instant. Januzaj, who was chasing with all his strength, felt his body was hollowed out at this moment, and his legs softened and he fell to his knees on the turf. He watched Lee Boluo hook the ball away, then turned around and made a straight pass, finding Franken, who was waiting more than 10 meters away, and Wimbledon immediately launched a wave of quick counterattacks. Franken crossed the center line and sent a through ball. Dubas, who once again became a one-handed player, did not waste the opportunity this time, and pierced De Gea's 10 fingers with a strong shot. 3 o'clock. Januzaj, +10. Desperate Januzaj closed his eyes and collapsed to the ground, but he still heard the disgusted voice. Sorry. Januzaj, who was full of question marks, opened his eyes. You are too hypocritical. At this time, you still want to apologize to me? Lee Polo laughed. You are much stronger than I expected, it took me 2 moves to kill you. Januzaj, +10. An emotionally broken Januzaj hit the turf with a punch. This man, is he a devil? End of this chapter.